Hey everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Pierre, and joining me as always is my lumberjack co-host, Tara.
Okay, I swear I have other shirts. I just wear this one a lot because we tend to record after I work and it's an easy thing to throw on. Oh, greetings, citizens.
I love how you had to tell me off for like 30 seconds before you get to the hello part. Excellent start. We are a science fiction movie podcast. A regular episode of this show is us talking about a movie that we've both just watched, and we'll sit and we'll dissect it for at least an hour, sometimes up to 2 hours, depending on the movie. This is not that episode. This is actually our first ever countdown episode. This is something that I've done in other shows with Tim and Screams After Midnight for horror movies. I've done it with Connor for other stuff and so on. But this is going to be our top 25 sci-fi movies of the decade. The decade, of course, being 2010 to 2019, because we're right at the end of the decade. And, you know, I debated doing a 50, but obviously, you know, when I actually assembled a list of all the movies that I'd seen, and I think Tara was similar, yeah, we can get to 50 in terms of numbers, but we don't necessarily like, you know, once we get to like 42, it's like, do we even like this movie anymore? Not really.
Yeah, it'll be like, this movie was kind of fine.
So we cut it down to 25 to make it tough so that everything was worth mentioning, and hopefully it gives you guys some good recommendations. And what's interesting about this versus, say, a list that me and Tim, because me and Tim are going to do this for horror movies, we're going to do top 50 horror movies of the decade, because we've been doing that show now almost 5 years. And what's funny is that because me and Tim have seen a lot of the same movies, I feel like our lists are going to have a lot of overlap and a lot of, whereas, well, we'll have some overlap. I think we'll have maybe a bit more of a variance than I've had with previous lists. That's it. Well, actually, having said that, sometimes Connor has like a shit ton of like he'll have like John Hughes movies and like anime and shit, and like, that'll take up like enough slots that his list feels really different.
Not on here.
I mean, technically, anime could have counted for this. A lot of anime is science fiction. But
I don't watch anime.
Yeah, if you know us, then you know that there's zero chance of that happening. But
yeah. So all you anime fans who stumbled upon our channel for this episode, there are no anime on my list.
Yes, not on mine either, but that's okay. So the way this works is really simple. Tara's going to give her number 25, then I'll give my number 25. Obviously, when we give our entries, we'll explain them a little bit, and we'll go from there. We'll probably do a few shout-outs and honourable mentions at the end. Don't want to spoil what's not going to appear to make it a bit more exciting, and this is probably going to run a while. So buckle in, get comfortable, maybe get some candles, go in the bath, you know, just to shut your eyes and listen to the sweet, sweet sounds of me, and then Tara's also there occasionally too. So
and arguing with each other about why their choice is stupid. Perfect for a relaxing bath.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, what do people have baths before, like, you know, like podcasts and tablets to exist? It must have been so boring.
I don't know. Have you ever just like turned off electronics and listened to your own thoughts?
I did once, and it scarred me for life, and I've still not quite recovered. And I don't want to think about the number of people that might, you know, get hurt if I listen to my own thoughts. So I have to numb it with sound.
Go back to science fiction podcast.
Oh dear. Okay, so we're going to get started here. Top 5 sci-fi movies of the decade, 2010 to 2019. This is exciting because you only get to do this once every 10 years. Now, obviously, at some point, we're probably going to do our own top 25s or 50s of previous decades for fun, right? We'll do that eventually, but we're doing this right now because this is relevant because it's the end of the decade. So this is cool. It's special. We're going to get going. Tara, without further ado, what is your number 25?
I'm going to make you so mad. Right out of the gate. So I have 2 movies that are tied.
Well, no. Well,
let me explain it. I know what your reaction is going to be, but let me explain it. The reason is because they're 2 movies from a franchise that I love and need to be on this list because I love them. Wait. Let me freaking finish. But they're on the list for the exact same reason, because I love this franchise and they have to be here. But the movies are problematic. It is Star Wars or Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. They are tied for the last place.
You are making a mockery of the list system, the countdown system.
No,
with your very first entry.
They are the same movie.
Your very first
they
entry.
Are one. It is Star Trek Rise of Skywalker or Star Wars Into Darkness.
First of all, both these movies are
Just
not.
one movie.
Both of these movies are not very good for a start, so I'm offended in a quality
They're
level.
on my list because they have to be.
What do you mean they have to be? There's a lot of Star Wars movies to pick. There's a lot of Star Trek movies to pick.
I can't not have them on my list. But both of them deserve to be 25th.
Did you like Cumberbatch's Can?
I like a lot of Star Trek Into Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And I like a lot of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker.
But
they just have to be there. That's all. They're on my list. They made it.
Okay. So why? Why?
I think that J.J. Abrams really knows how to refresh a franchise, and then doesn't know how to keep going. But because he does such a good job of refreshing it and introducing me to these people that I love, I want to see more from them. And I still think that they're worth watching, and I still think they're good. They're not better than 25.
I don't even know. All right, well, my number 25, despite the fact that Tara couldn't actually justify why she wanted these to be on her top 25, and not despite the fact that she also didn't pick one movie. The whole point, she's meant to make a hard cut. She's meant to say, because surely you like one more than the other. Surely you like either Rise of Skywalker or Into Darkness. One of them has to be better than the other.
I don't know. I only just saw Rise of Skywalker like 12 hours ago. I need more time.
Okay, well, we're off to a winning start.
I knew you were gonna be so mad.
I mean, I'm baffled by the picks, but yes, I'm mad about the format cheating, the breaking.
So yeah, number 25 is Star Trek Rise of Skywalker.
This is a shambles. This is an absolute shambles already. Number 25 for me is actually also a Star Trek movie, believe it or not. Number 25 is Star Trek Beyond, which I think is the best of the three of the newer Abrams Kelvin-verse movies. Mainly because it just decided to have fun, and I also felt like it was the one that felt the most like an actual Star Trek story, because it had the heart, it had an interesting new character. Like if they do ever actually get around to making a fourth one, I want that new chick. I want the white alien chick.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah, she's great.
I agree. Sophia Boutella? Yeah.
And
she really made an entrance in movies just in the last decade, and kept killing it. She's great.
Yeah, Kingsman, The Mummy, which obviously wasn't good, but no.
Yeah. But I was looking forward to seeing her as the Mummy. The trailers were good with her.
Yeah. I think Star Trek Beyond has the most of the original show in it. It still has action sequences, but it doesn't feel as contrived. I thought it was a really solid sci-fi action movie, and it was a nice send off. I remember tearing up a little bit, even though when I saw that movie, I hadn't really seen much of any of the shows at all. But I found myself getting a little bit emotional because this movie came out maybe 6 months before me and Connor started doing the reviews, from the start. So. But I found myself getting a little bit teared up with how they handled young Spock dealing with the fact that old Spock passed away, and of course Leonard Nimoy had literally passed away since the previous movie, so it was very kind of real and felt raw.
And Anton Yelchin. I mean, that was so surprising and heartbreaking. Of course, it's hard to lose a legacy like Leonard Nimoy, but of course, just somebody so young, it's just so tragic.
But of course, unlike Leonard Nimoy, obviously he's in the movie, so obviously he died after he shot the movie, but obviously it wasn't written with the idea of this being a send-off for him, so he doesn't get the plot send-off. He obviously gets the dedication at the end, because of course he does, but
Yeah.
Spock, Leonard Nimoy gets this wonderful send off from the younger Spock trying to deal with his own like sort of future death, and that's kind of a beautiful idea. But it has a lot of heart, and what's his face? Carl Urban as Bones is like fantastic, and he's the best thing about that trilogy. Honestly, I loved it because that was the first one.
I absolutely agree. From like the first movie, where I didn't think that he could do it, because I really knew Carl Urban from Lord of the Rings as Éomer, and he comes in and you're like, oh, he's fantastic, because he nails the attitude, the temperament, and he's still so likable, and he looks nothing like DeForest Kelly, but he has just the right details down.
Yeah, and honestly,
to make it work.
I felt he got kind of shafted in the first two, because Trek always felt like a three-person show to me in terms of the plots, and I felt like the first two movies kind of did a disservice to him.
They wanted to make Uhura the third. Yeah.
And the third movie, it didn't try to take away from Uhura to do it, but it really felt like Bones got to be a part of the main plot. Like his stuff with Spock in that movie, and being a part of Spock's like sort of acceptance of death, really worked for me. So no, Star Trek Beyond, I think it's a solid movie, and I hope the fourth one, if it happens, is good, and hopefully it continues what I liked about Beyond, even though Beyond didn't do that well financially.
No, yeah, it was a surprise.
So, number 25 is Star Trek Beyond. Tara, what's your number 24?
My number 24 is another sequel. It is Tron Legacy.
Okay.
This is a movie that a lot of people panned, but I was blown away when I saw it in the theater. I know 3D movies were becoming popular. I thought this is a movie that did 3D really right. I liked the world. I love the score by Daft Punk. I thought the characters were interesting. I'll agree. I'll be the first one to say, before you jump in on it, or if I don't even know if you've seen it, but the CGI de-aging, it was a little weak at this point, but it showed potential for future movies.
For the record, I have not seen it. No.
I really love this movie. I think I don't know. I went and saw it and was totally blown away, and I wanted to talk to people about it, and people didn't see what I saw, and it was just fun. It was fun. It was a cool world. It's miles better than the first one. The first one's pretty boring, I think.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is I actually think I watched the first one just before it came out, thinking, I'll watch the first one and see if I like it, and I like you say, I was painfully bored with the first one, so I just never seen the second one.
I'm truly still like disappointed that we're not getting the continuation of the story. Like I really like the first one. Cillian Murphy's in like the first scene, the opening scene, and then never seen again. I don't even know if he's credited in the film, because I think he was supposed to be a big recurring thing for the next one. And of course those movies got canceled because they made no money. But I think it's worth watching. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, well, I mean, I've heard nothing but bad things, but I've not seen it, so I can't really argue with you. So, I'll.
I think a lot of people will back me up. I think it's a movie that a lot of people liked, but critically it didn't work, and I think and of course I guess people weren't interested in it because no one went and saw it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Disney have a lot of other franchises they want to just keep pumping out, as opposed to trying Tron again. And if they ever did, it wouldn't be the sequel anyway. It'd be like another reboot. It'd be, here's a new version of Tron.
Yeah.
So, okay. And actually, I just double checked what year that was. I was like, I don't know, was that this decade? And it was 2010. They just made it in.
Yeah.
I just double checked. I was like, I hope she's not pulling a fly. She's already cheated by having two movies tied in 25th place. All right, so my number 24 is one of the more recent films on this list, and that is Ad Astra. which is not a perfect movie. Obviously we did have critiques, and we kind of picked at some plot holes and some sciencey things that you can really tear apart if you want to. But this was a movie that just really spoke to me in terms of its atmosphere and the feeling of the journey, where it felt like such a trek to get to the moon, and it felt like such a trek to get to Mars, and then it was this long journey to get to beyond Uranus. I think it was Neptune. I think it was Neptune actually, but.
Neptune is beyond Uranus.
Oh, is Neptune beyond? Sorry, Uranus is first. Okay.
No, it is.
Okay.
No, you're right.
Excellent. Oh, sorry. Why did they call it Uranus? It's so hard to say it in a sentence and not giggle at the context around it.
It's a very unfortunately named planet.
You just said to me Neptune's beyond Uranus. Well, I'd hope so. I think there's a planet near my ass.
Okay, back to seriousness.
Yes.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot too.
Yeah, I like the moodiness of it. I like the narration and the kind of and out of nowhere there was a really fun action scene in the middle of this where there was like a car chase. It's a lunar buggy chase on the moon.
Yeah, it's like a weird. I don't know, like it becomes like a Western shooter.
Yeah. This was all about the visuals and the music and just like how it all came together in that sense. And even though there is flaws in the storytelling, you can sort of poke holes in the script and some moments that it has, and I still like the ultimate message it has. The ultimate message is about him going out there to find his father, and ultimately what he learns and what it has, the message it has to say about like accepting or not accepting who your parent is. I think actually is a really nice solid little message. There was a couple of tricks taken and some liberties taken to get it there, but I think ultimately it works really well, and I was really into it from start to finish. So Ad Astra, I don't think it should be too high because it does have some problems, but I do think it deserves to be on here as a shout.
It barely missed my list.
Oh,
but
okay.
Unless I'm allowed to double up on the rest.
No, you are not. And there better not be any
I'll
like.
never do that again. I promise.
Yeah,
I cannot.
There better be not any like. I'm counting this trilogy as one. No, never.
That's it. Just the 25.
If you even try and pull that shit, I will erase this recording and make you do the whole thing again properly. Right. What's your number 23?
My 23 is Star Trek Beyond.
Hey.
So, yeah. I agree. It's definitely the best of the three. I'm sure most people would like the first one, but as somebody who already loved Star Trek as a franchise, going into the movies, like I didn't need to be proven that Star Trek is good. I already knew that, so it wasn't a surprise to me.
You know, I've not watched any of these movies since I started working through the show, and I do actually wonder if I'd like the first one as much if I because I feel like I might actually
totally it's so different.
Yeah.
But the thing the first one gets right is the characters are great, and the relationships between them are great, and you could put those characters in any film franchise and it would be great because they just work. And I think Beyond does an extra step where it's like, this is why we liked the original show, because it was the characters, and also it was these types of stories. We're on a planet, there's aliens, wasn't it written by Simon Pegg? He's like a Star Trek super fan.
It was one of the co-writers, I think.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely. I think a great Star Trek movie, and I think the best of the trilogy of the new ones.
Yeah, I agree. I think most Trek fans actually fall on that. I think most of them line up to saying the third one's the best, which is strange because most franchises don't work that way. But that's cool.
That's true.
So my number 23 is, I think, an underrated film that does not get. I mean, it's not even that it doesn't get enough love. It gets shat on, and I don't think it should be shat on. I think the heart is there, and I think it works really well. My number 23 is Tomorrowland. And And
Yeah, I love this movie.
And I love the main girl in this. Obviously, George Clooney's pretty fun in there, but it's this movie about optimism. And I'm a big Brad Bird fan, and his Mission Impossible for me is the best one. I love Iron Giant, and and it has a lot in common with Iron Giant and the optimism and this idea of like trying to have a better future and
Totally agree.
mystery and adventure, all this stuff. Like I was really into it, and it was a shame that everyone else seemed to just kind of think it was, I don't know, too
I think people
schmaltzy.
thought it was too preachy, but I think they're missing the main message here. It's not that you're doing stuff wrong, and people don't like to hear that. People don't want to be like, well, yeah, I get it. The environment sucks, and we could do more or whatever. But that wasn't the point of it. The point is that we still should do our best, and the optimistic message is don't look at the future and just see the negative. See where we can go from here, what opportunities this presents. And I really like the girl, and I like that world, and I love that retro future that in Tomorrowland with the whole like World's Fair style. I love this movie.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Good pick.
Brad Bird.
And I agree. I think it's totally underrated.
Yeah, Brad Bird, for the record, is still my number one pick to direct a Superman movie.
I mean, man knows how to do optimism.
And you'll probably agree with me even more once you see Iron Giant, which we'll definitely do in the show at some point, because there's so much Superman in that. Literally, you'll see what I mean when you see it. But
Okay.
yeah, so that's Tomorrowland. What is your number 22?
My 22 is a Marvel movie. And it is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I know I'm a rare breed here, but I actually like the sequel more than the first one. And I think because the sequel knew a little bit more about what it was, it kind of leaned into the campiness. Like, I get it. Not all the humor is great, whatever. Taserface doesn't work. I get it. It works for the kids who watched the movie in front of me, but it didn't work for me. But other than that, like, I love the movie. I love the father-son relationship. I love the sister relationship. I just had a blast with this film. So
I don't dislike Guardians 2. I do think it's weaker than the first one, mainly because I feel like because they split into two, right? I think the plot with Rocket and Yondu and all that stuff, I think that stuff is fantastic pretty much from start to finish.
It's so great. Yeah. Emotional too. I got really emotional.
But Peter and Gamora on the Eagle planet with Kurt Russell, I found that to be kind of a pace killer, where it just felt like they were waiting around for the plot to start for a long time.
No, I love the scenes with him and his well, I mean, I don't really see it so much as Peter and Gamora and Kurt Russell. Like, I see the father-son storyline and the sister, the family storyline, and I think it's a lot cleaner than the first movie. The first movie does, like, it's fun, but I don't love the characters yet. And in this movie, I do. I can't really.
Look, I've only seen it once. Maybe the stuff that I wasn't as keen on will work better for me on a second viewing. But
and the soundtrack's better.
I can't remember the songs well enough to agree or disagree with that. But fair enough. Guardians 2 is your 22. My number 22, very different from my last pick. My last pick was hopeful and optimistic and building a better world. Number 22 is 10 Cloverfield Lane, where we're all screwed no matter what, and if you leave the bunker, something bad is going to happen, or will it? As the movie kind of goes through, the premise of this is basically that Maisie Winstead wakes up and she's in like a sort of a bunker, sort of safe, it's one of these shelters that someone builds, thinking that nuclear fallout is going to come. And John Goodman's down there, and there's one other guy that's maybe more about her age, and she's told that she can't leave, not because she's been held captive, but because it's not safe, because outside is like radioactive, and there's a disease or something. I can't remember exactly what he says to her, and it becomes this movie about John Goodman being this, like, just controlling, possibly psychotic like, and like the attempts to try and regain control from him, and there's twists and there's turns, and it is science fiction. It has got the word Cloverfield in the title, so I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there is a science fiction element that does come in, although I wouldn't say exactly to what extent, because I think that does get spoilery. But it's definitely the best movie with Cloverfield in the title. I'll say that. Very tense, and I love that it's this little low budget $10 million movie that, like, I think was revealed about a month before it came out, which never happens.
Yeah, that was such a surprise.
Yeah, it was just, hey, there's a Cloverfield movie coming out next month. I'm like, what? And then of course they topped that with the Netflix one, like, oh, it's out tonight.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot that was the thing.
Yeah,
didn't even watch it.
It wasn't. Unfortunately, it was kind of it was weak sauce. But
the gimmick was the most exciting part.
Yeah, but 10 Cloverfield Lane's a really good sci-fi thriller with good performances. So I recommend it, and that's my number 22. What is your 21?
My 21 is the beginning of a franchise that I didn't know I needed a reboot of. It is Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm. I'm shocked.
I know. Like, this is, I think of the three, this is definitely the weakest, but
I wonder if the other two are going to show up now.
I know, big surprise anyway, right? But like but this one, I mean, when it came out, it was such a shocker. Like, I went and saw it in the theater, kind of with my arms folded, like, okay, you're giving me a reboot to a movie that is kind of dated, but it's a prequel, and I've been burned before, and it has James Franco in it. Fine, show me what you got. And it was great. It was fun. It justified why it existed. And you know, you're following you're not following the human characters really. You're following Caesar and his journey, and you're like, oh, I'm conflicted on who I'm rooting for the first time, and it was just such a surprise.
Honestly, like,
great.
I mean, it technically is a prequel, but honestly, like, but at the same time, not really. Like, it's such a good science fiction like take on what it is, and I was the same way when I saw the trailer for it. I went, "Who wants a reboot of Planet of the Apes? Like, just let it die." And I remember like just being blown away with how good it was. And like, and you know, one of the things I'm complaining about a lot recently is how they're using nostalgia all the time in these reboots and sequels, and they're constantly referencing the old movies. This movie has one of the best callbacks to like the original film, like, that I have ever seen in a movie.
Just with the news?
No. It's an iconic line from the first movie's flipped on its head, and it's such a good moment.
Oh, I know.
Right, it is used. That is like the most justifiable like reference I have ever seen in something, because it flips everything, and it has impact, and the shock of it works because the character in the scene is also shot. It's so good. Like, yeah, Rise is great. You'd have to convince me. Like,
yeah, it definitely deserves to be on the list of top 25.
Yeah. So that was 21, right? My number 21. I probably won't get much agreement on this one, I don't think. But my number 21 is Interstellar. Now, not super high.
I am shocked that it is so low.
Yeah. You were probably expecting it to be higher, and I like Interstellar a lot. And I may even go up when I watch it again, because I've not seen it since, you know, like 2014. But like, this movie has so much insane visuals and the music. You know, everyone thinks about the docking sequence. I love the build of everything that's happening. It's clearly got a lot of influence from stuff like 2001, to the point where, like, you know, once the sci-fi stuff started to get going in the movie, you know, once we'd introduced the characters and it's like, okay, there's going to be a mission of some kind, and they're explaining it to them, and they say, oh, there's a message from somewhere out there that I think they want us to follow, and I'm like, this is 2001. You're doing 2001. Nolan, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then, you know, it has all these weird...
Hey, if you're going to steal from the greats.
Yeah. So. I mean, yeah, it's very much Nolan's take on 2001, but with a lot more...
romance?
Yeah, I wasn't looking for that word specifically, but yeah. I was going to say I guess a lot more heart, but like... And it's not to say that 2001 doesn't have any heart, but it's a very cold film, right? You know, it's very...
I can't think of any heart.
Whereas this movie kind of puts the human experience in the middle of it all at the center, and then kind of goes out from there and treats it that way. And I think it's a very stunning visual film. The technical qualities are all fantastic. Performances are good. And I know some Hatha hate's about to erupt from the other side of the screen, but
don't like Hathaway.
But Matthew McConaughey is really good in this movie.
Yeah,
he's fantastic in this movie, and
he could be hit or miss.
That's true. Yeah.
I wasn't never into the reconnaissance that was happening, but when you got a good director, he is really great. Hathaway, no, but McConaughey, yeah. So
do you remember the tagline, or yeah, it was the tagline in the poster. It was like humanity was born, or mankind was born on Earth, but it was never meant to die there. Was the tagline. I remember when this was coming out, I one of the puns that I'm more proud of, I said about Matthew McConaughey, his career started in romantic comedies, but it was never meant to die there.
Well done. I approve.
You. Yes, I thought that was great.
I'm glad you remembered that.
Why do I get sarcasm in that sentence? I get a little bit of sarcasm. I don't think I trust you.
Just I also sense the whole nobody appreciated this at the time, so I'm gonna do this now. It was appreciated.
I liked it enough to bring it back. And I like how operatic the whole thing feels. Like I love if we're talking about the music again, like the organ almost in the soundtrack that gives it this really weird biblical feeling.
Zimmer, right?
It's Zimmer, yeah. It's great. I love the Zimmer. He's one of those guys. But yeah,
sure is.
Yeah, Interstellar is my number 21, which leads you to your number 20.
My number 20 is the second Marvel film.
Mainstream Tara over here.
I know, right? Well, they're all kind of low on my list.
She's got Star Wars and 2 Marvels and 2 Star Treks already.
Yeah, I know. It might get a little artsy later on. These are movies that I just like, but I don't put on a pedestal. Those are like the top 10s. Those are separate. But anyway, it's Thor Ragnarok. This is the only Marvel movie that I actually purchased on Blu-ray because I felt like I could watch it over and over again, and I think it's brilliant. You get Taika Waititi, who's done nothing but gold, and it takes a character in the Marvel films that you care about, but you don't really understand why it's not working as well as it could be, and he says, let's just make a comedy, and it is so fun. It's executed well. It's a bitchin' soundtrack, and
I think
you get Jeff Goldblum. It's fun.
Like it's a solid pick. I think it's a great comedy as well. I do think because it's a good comedy, the stakes of the final act, the action, don't work for me that well. Like I found myself really enjoying it, and then the last act just being okay. It's a Marvel fight scene at the end, whatever.
There is there a Marvel movie that doesn't have that?
Well, no, but that's kind of my point. Is that I almost wish it didn't do it. I was like, no, I wish you were above this. It's kind of, even the Black Widow.
It's true.
The Black Widow trailer,
everything else in it is just so juicy.
Yeah, but the Black Widow trailer, even I felt that way with. I was like, oh, they're doing like all this Black Widow stuff, spy. Okay, this is kind of cool. Oh, she's flying through the air, and there's like CG around. Okay, it's still a Marvel movie.
Yep, that's true. Can't escape it. Even like Black Panther, which had, was such a deep movie.
Yeah,
suffers with the fight at the end.
Posing serious questions, but then that CGI fight at the end was just pretty lame.
Yep. Yeah. Again, all right. You gotta take the package deal.
Yep.
And Thor Ragnarok, it counts as sci-fi because they're aliens, so it's on my list.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, my number 20 then is Monsters.
I don't know what this movie is.
This is from the director of Godzilla, Gareth Edwards. Thank you, because there's a Gareth Evans as well, and I always mix them up, so I really had to make sure I was getting the right one. But like, this is a very low budget film where he did all the CG on his own laptop.
Oh, I think you told me about this.
Yeah, it's about so that's part of like, I think it's South America's like quarantine. You're not meant to go through there because it's where all the monsters that arrived on Earth, like all these alien beings that are huge. So there's like big walls that have been put up around like all this part of the continent, and basically this like rich daughter, like it needs to be escorted like to the other side of the area, and this guy's hired to like take her, and it's essentially a romance where they're just going through the jungle, and they're going through like these like sort of areas that are almost like post-apocalyptic looking. It's not a post-apocalyptic movie, but these areas have been abandoned, so it kind of feels like it in parts of it. But they go past pyramids and all that stuff. This was just a really beautiful, simple little movie with some sort of almost Jurassic Park-esque kind of like, action where there's like, cars getting flipped and things like that. But like, I love the ending of it. I love the beautiful like nature where it kind of does this thing where it's like, yeah, like the aliens are kind of like scary for a lot of the movie because they're big and whatever, but you kind of realize that they're really just fighting to stay with each other and survive. Like it kind of does this mirroring thing with the romance that's really cool, and I just thought it was really impressive as a really dirt cheap little movie. So
cool.
Now, admittedly, I only saw it once, and it was a long time ago. It was like 2010 it came out. So it's entirely possible that I'll watch it again and be like, oh, this isn't as good as I remember it. But the magic captured me at the time. It really did. So my number 20 is...
If we had a list that was longer than 25, I would have had a lot of those. Like, I think I remember this being good.
No, I mean, I feel confident about it at the time. I mean, but it is a long time now, so it's entirely possible it'll flip when I watch it again. But hey, what's your number 19?
My number 19, we're not out of the franchises yet. I'm going with Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Okay.
Which is another reboot, and a skeptical reboot that turned out to be a lot of fun and introduced characters that I really liked, brought back old characters that I was happy to see again. The pacing was perfect. The jokes were funny. I think it was worthy of the Star Wars title to me, and really was totally into the hype. Really love this movie.
I had fun with it when it came out. I liked the new characters. I thought they had a fun chemistry, and that's basically it. But hey Gus, hey Cat. For the audio listeners, Tara's cat just like walked past the screen as if I don't care if you're recording stuff. I'm gonna just sit around past.
Yeah, this is his room. I'm just allowed to stay in it. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, if that's you, if that's number 19. My number 19 is Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So, yeah, I mean, we talked about it already, but like the movie like makes Caesar the main character, and it's so impressive from a visual effects point of view. Where other than a couple,
we really didn't talk about that at all, and it even for the time when it came out, like I can't believe those movies have never won the Oscar for it, because just the performance capture is so revolutionary. Well,
here's the thing, like, so War of the Apes came out, what was that, last year or 2017?
2 years ago, I think. 2 years ago.
Right, so right before that came out, I watched the first two again, and the CG in Rise still held up, and that was 5 years, 6 years later. And there's a couple of moments where you can almost see something look not quite right, but for the most part, you're watching the Caesar's eyes are looking around, and you feel the emotion, you see the performance. It is real.
Yeah, you're really watching Andy Serkis in a mask. Like,
it feels
he's great, and Toby Kebbell, and it's two actors that unfortunately probably won't be able to be recognized for how good they are, because they're so known for doing this type of work instead, and will never get the full credit.
Yeah, it's really impressive stuff, and it still holds up today, because I think we really had a point with CG this decade where there's good CG and there's bad CG, but the stuff that's done really well even at the start of the decade still holds up at the end of the decade. It's just a case of now, is there enough time and effort put into it, and and that also means money, to make it really lifelike. And the Apes trilogy as a whole has like some of the best visual effects I've seen. So
stunning. Yeah, totally.
So that's obviously a big thing that we didn't mention before, so I wanted to mention that, and just, yeah, that's wonderful. So what is your number 18?
I can't believe it, but my 18 is Interstellar.
You had Interstellar higher than me?
Higher than you.
Oh.
I do really like Interstellar. Like, you're right when it comes to, this is Nolan's, version of 2001, and of course, that's my favorite movie. So I notice when people have ambition and want to try to reach that goal, and I'm all for it. Like, yes, bring me another one. And the visuals alone, the scene with like the black hole and they're going through the time thing, like, I can't believe that so much of it was done practical and totally worth it. Totally worth it.
I love the planet where they're walking like in the water and there's like a really slow tidal wave, like, but it's like so slow that it's not dangerous yet, and I'm like, whoa, that's so weird.
Yeah, it really, like, the planets you go to really do feel alien, and it is a beautiful film. I just don't love the end, and of course I don't love Anne Hathaway. Like, she ruins everything. So, but also the ending kind of makes things like, okay, I see what you're trying to do, but like, I just don't believe it as much as I want to, and I think it's kind of it's almost hokey, and I wanted my movie to be more
cerebral.
Yeah, I guess I wanted it to be colder. That
said, though, you did have it this high, which means the journey must have been worth the experience.
Definitely the journey, and definitely the robot.
Oh, yeah, the robot's great. Yeah.
The comic relief robot is great.
Yeah, and again, has a very unique look to it. It doesn't look like any other robot I've seen in a movie.
Yeah, you're right. It's blocky, and it shouldn't work, but it does. It's good. I do really like Interstellar. I make fun of it because people who are super Interstellar fans are ridiculous.
My number 18 is actually similar. This is the first time I've had the same director. You technically had you've had 3 J.J. Abrams. Well, 1 and 2 halves, I guess, technically.
He's going to bother you for a long time.
But I'm actually going back to Gareth Edwards because Godzilla from 2014 is my number 18. Which is not a perfect film, and people will criticize the human characters, and there's definitely things to critique there. Here's the thing, though. This is a movie that treats Godzilla like an absolute dominant force. And it's not a coincidence that even one of the sound effects from 2001: A Space Odyssey, the sort of chanting part of the music, is in this movie. It's kind of almost Godzilla's theme when he appears. Yeah. Very well done. And you promised me before this started you wouldn't sing any music from the movies.
Well, I didn't know we were going to do that song.
But I love just how, and some people get really annoyed at this movie because of the cock teasing, because it's like, oh, you almost see a fight and then it cuts away, or it almost does this and it cuts.
I love it. I love that it teases you like that. I love because the payoff.
Yeah, the payoff is great.
Is worth it.
Because I went into this movie not knowing, because obviously it's a more faithful looking Godzilla, right? And I do love that the next one actually brought Godzilla's real music back. The da-na-na-na-na-na. But one of the things I love about this movie is that I went into it not knowing if they were going to give him atomic breath. I didn't know for sure if they were going to do it or not. And
no, me neither.
When that moment hits and the light is up the back of his tail, the feeling I had, and what I love about this movie, I love that entire last act. See, when they're descending into San Francisco, it's like they're going into hell, almost like we were saying about Interstellar, how the planets are alien, right? This feels like
the trailer, and the trailer was with that music, and it was just like, what am I about to watch? What is that? Is that a back? Are there spikes? Oh my god, it's Godzilla.
The trailer showed,
and he's the size of a skyscraper, if not bigger.
The trailer showed parts of it, but when you're watching the movie, you get that great moment where it goes past Godzilla's head, and you almost see Godzilla looking at him a little bit, but the feeling as they get into this, it genuinely feels like they're going into a hellish place where only monsters are supposed to live. The monsters have taken this over, and this is not our world anymore. And I love that feeling.
I think Gareth Edwards is what he proves in this movie, and I think in Rogue One, which is not on my list. Spoiler.
Definitely not on mine.
But I think he's really good at scale. Oh,
sure, yeah.
And I think that although I don't hate King of the Monsters, I actually enjoyed that movie too because of the monsters. That one kind of fails a bit at what Gareth Edwards does right, which is just he makes something feel enormous on the screen. And a lot of people are not able to do that. Like he does the same thing with the walkers, the AT-AT walkers in Rogue One. We're like, those things are big.
Same with monsters. I mean, I know you've not seen it, but like
I have not seen it. Yeah,
I think the atmosphere that's here is that, which is why I rank this higher, but not to spoil the other ones, because I enjoyed King of the Monsters as well. I enjoyed that because it was more of a fun B movie, and the monster fighting was a lot of fun. But I picked this over it because this one has such a great like sort of vision and like tone. When the monster stuff starts happening, when the Godzilla stuff starts happening, it really feels like another world is taking over our planet, and it feels so, apocalyptic, I guess. I don't know, like it just.
I'm surprised it's not higher on your list.
It was tough, honestly. This is the point where I was starting to have some tough choices, and I was moving things around a lot. So we're getting to the tough stuff. So that was my number 18. So what is your number 17?
My number 17 is a movie I know you really love, and it's Under the Skin.
Oh,
yeah. It's one of the Scottish Pride movies.
Yes.
This is a movie I just rented because it said sci-fi and it had a picture of Scarlett Johansson. I thought, well, let me check it out, and was totally not ready for what the movie was. But it's one of those movies that you watch and there's so much unease when you watch it. It's just this feeling of like that scene on the beach with the baby. Like it's hard to just like she really must be something extraterrestrial, to just allow this to happen. It's cold and it's ominous, and it's the atmosphere is, they just nail it. It is a horror movie also.
Yeah, but it's very Kubrick. Like there's a lot of comparisons to it when it came out, but it does feel genuinely very Kubrick. It's definitely
art house, but I think it's accessible. It's not too much. Like we watched High Life, which is not on my list, and that movie was just borderline too much art house.
Do you know what's so funny about this is I saw this like opening day, because I was like, oh, movies are out, I'm gonna go see one. And I didn't even know it was set in Scotland. And I went to this, and like I knew it was art house because I'd seen part of the trailer, and I was like, oh, I knew that was an art house movie. And I sat down, and the theater was packed. It was like sold out. And I'm looking around, I'm like, why is this sold out for an art house movie?
Classy people in my town.
Like this is normally the type of movie that I'd expect like maybe 2 other people at. Like this is the sort of film it is. And then it was when it was playing, there's a point like about 5-10 minutes in where she goes somewhere, and I just sort of like gradually reckon. I was like, wait a minute, I know this place. I've been here.
In the local paper or something.
And I'll look around like, that's why the theater's full. They're only here because they know it's set in Scotland. That is the only reason why they were there.
And they're all going to leave and go, eh.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Because the movie starts with this, like, before it even gets to, like, Scarlett Johansson, like, taking the clothes off of, like, some dead girl, there's this really sort of abstract, like, circle thing where it's, like, the eye forming, and it's like, this really... but it's like a couple of minutes of this, and it's really like it's almost like the Jupiter stuff from. I mean, it's a bit more toned down, but it's almost like the Jupiter stuff from 2001, where it's just these like shapes and images, and like. And I was just looking around like, these people have no idea what they're in for. They don't know what this is.
Definitely not.
They were not prepared.
They're either going to pretend they liked it, or they're just going to say, "Well, I didn't like that."
Yeah, whereas I freaking loved it. It's like you said, the tone's so strong. And I love that there is kind of an arc for a character where she does get like humanity as the movie goes on. So
and femininity, like she finds she likes being a woman, and it's very.
She preys upon men. It kind of flips the whole thing. Like the men are almost like arrogant to the point where they think, well, I can't be in danger because it's a woman picking me. Like I'll get in the strange van because it's just a woman. A woman can't hurt me. I'm a strong man. And obviously, it does not turn out well for them, let's just say.
Men do have one weakness. Scarlett Johansson.
she has a pretty good weakness. This is true. So yeah. So that was your number
17.
17. My number 17 is also very art house, actually. My number 17 is a little film called Beyond the Black Rainbow. And This
Is this Refn?
no, it's not Refn. There's a lot.
Well, you've brought this one up to me before. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, there's a lot of reference in there. It's the same director who went on to do Mandy last year, and
Yeah.
it's super trippy. It's about this deranged scientist who's trapped a girl because she's got like maybe telekinesis or something like that, and it's about just him having her trapped, and it's really moody and stylish. A lot of like bold lighting and weird like retro future like design and all that sort of stuff. It's super low budget, but it's all atmosphere. It's all how it feels. And I showed this to a lot of people back like soon after I first saw it, and of like the maybe probably like 15 people I showed it to, because I was in like a film club kind of thing. Like 14 of them hated it, but there was that one person who was like, I love this, and I'm like, yes. The rest of them all hated it, but I loved it. It's super trippy. It's super it's one of those things much like Under the Skin, where you have to be in the mood, but once you turn the lights off and just let yourself be enveloped in it and just be in the scenes as they're playing out, it is a wonderful experience. And I love it. And when I found out he was doing another movie and it was Mandy, it was like, Nicolas Cage is in it. What? Like, it's not a sci-fi movie, but like I was like, okay, this has to be batshit. Oh, I love Mandy as well. So Cosmatos is his last name. Can't remember his first name, but the director's name's Cosmatos, so he's very good. If you're into like seriously art house stuff, like this movie is basically like that pretentious film student's like wet dream. Like that's how I'd describe it. Same with the Skin, to be honest. Like, Yeah,
I don't know. I wouldn't call myself that, but I'm just a movie fan, and I think Under the Skin's pretty accessible.
Well, I wouldn't call myself that either, but like, I'm just kind of.
I would call you that.
How dare you? How dare you? You cheeky little trollop.
Oh, worth it.
Yeah.
So worth it.
What's your number 16?
My number 16 is a movie we've already talked about. It's 10 Cloverfield Lane. Yeah, we already talked about it a bunch, but another movie I was just like totally blown away by, and it was so cheap, and it's just, how do you make John Goodman into somebody that you don't like or don't trust? All he ever is just these likable dad-like characters, or it's like taking Tom Hanks and turning him into a villain. You're like, I don't like this. But he's great. He's such a good, like, is he just a crazy prepper, or is he right? And you kind of go back and forth throughout the movie. I love the mystery. I love the tension. I love the claustrophobia of the whole thing. It's and yeah, there are some sci-fi elements, but it makes you doubt, the whole movie. So I love it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, I spoke my piece earlier on 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's very, 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 very good. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful little film. I love when a film proves that you can just have one location and just be really inventive with it. I'm just clicking on it because I wanted to see, because Dan Trachtenberg, who directed this, he went on to do an episode of Black Mirror, which was Playtest, which was one of season 3's episodes. It was a video game one.
I like that one.
Yeah, it was a solid one. Not my favorite this season, but yeah, because Shut Up and Dance is like right after it.
Oh yeah,
and then San Junipero,
masterpiece.
Yeah. But he also did I think it's the first episode of The Boys on Amazon this year. So he's not actually done any movies since then. So hopefully he gets back to movies, because he's really good. But and The Boys is really worth seeing. If anyone's not checked out The Boys,
yeah, I've watched the pilot, and it was a strong pilot for sure.
Yeah, it was really good. It's basically everything that. It's so weird that it came out the same year as Watchmen, because I feel like it's a much better satire of superheroes than the Watchmen movie is. But of course, the Watchmen show was a much better companion to
the
Watchmen.
Show just. It's so strong.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. But this is the thing: the Watchmen show I wouldn't call a satire or superhero. I'd say that's a companion to the book, but it's not. That's not what it's about anymore. Definitely. Whereas The Boys is actually about the superhero satire, and it's so funny. Like, I laughed so hard. When
the pilot was strong.
Anyway, so that was your number 16. My number 16 is proving that he still has it in him every so often. The Martian, Ridley Scott, who I feel like I like. He's got a lot of great movies, but he has a lot of shit in between those great movies. And this was kind of proof, because it had been a while. It had been a while since I'd loved something. He had a nice little run in the early 2000s with Gladiator, and then Black Hawk Down was pretty solid, and Matchstick Men was pretty good for what it was. But then he had a bit of a slump, and he made like that weird Egypt movie at some point, which I don't even remember. Gods of Egypt? That wasn't him. It was something like that though.
Yep, that was definitely him.
Was that him? Okay, right. So he did a lot of crap. Prometheus, well, it looked good, and I convinced myself that I liked it for a bit. But when I watched it again, I'm like, what was I thinking? No, this is terrible. Like, I can't defend this. And then obviously Covenant came later, and Covenant was
not on my list.
Not on my, yeah,
Actually,
not on my list.
I didn't see Covenant.
Yeah.
I don't like Prometheus, so I didn't see Covenant.
Yeah. There's an argument
I agree,
here.
though. I mean, The Martian was just such a, like, oh, he could still do it, you know? Like, you're right.
Yeah.
It was one of those, the trailers were promising, and then you went and saw the movie, and you're like, I didn't think that he could do comedy so well also, but like it's very funny.
It's very funny. No, and I think I always say this, but Ridley Scott is a great director. I think he's always a great visual director. All he needs is someone to hand him a good story, a good script. And obviously this was based on a book, so the book was there. The book was obviously solid.
The book is very strong. I've listened to the audiobook multiple times. I've never done that with an audiobook before, but like it is the book is funny also. So I mean, it has that. He does have a pretty good foundation, and emotional. Like the book's so well written. So.
And there's
yeah.
You know, I think there's an argument as well when something kind of creates a phrase that I have used like since to mean something, because like it works so well in the movie. Like basically there's a point in the movie where he's basically he has to survive for so long until the ship might be able to come back for him, and he has to like grow his own potatoes and things like that. There's a point where he kind of does the math and like how much food he can grow, how much he has to eat per week and all that, and he just looks at it and goes, I'm going to have to science the shit out of this. And that's kind of become to mean when you're like, okay, payday's not for a few days, and you look at the fridge and there's only like a few things, like, I'm going to have to science the shit out of this. Like that's become what that means. And I've seen it used online from various people, and it is a fun thing to say, and it's really good. So Martian's a really, really enjoyable movie that this was actually kind of a trend. There was like a little period of time where every October/November for about 3 or 4 years there was like a really sort of highbrow kind of sci-fi movie. It started in 2013 with Gravity, 2014 had Interstellar, and 2015 had The Martian. It was like a yearly thing at that time of year. There was like here's an interesting science fiction film. I'll get continued after that though. I think but it was just a nice coincidence.
Well, I think they tried. There was like Passengers and stuff, but I didn't see it. I mean, I think studios keep trying to get like a big science fiction movie out every year. This year we had Ad Astra, but
there was that
you don't always reach
Sony like Alien knockoff, Alien / The Thing knockoff Life, which I think was meant to be that time of year, but get delayed to like February or March, so it didn't really matter. But it was thoroughly mediocre. Martian, really good. What is your number 15?
Okay, this is the last of the Marvel films that I have, and it is Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, okay, that's sci-fi, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's definitely sci-fi.
When you said you had a few Marvel, I was like, oh, there's only so many I'd count as sci-fi. I never thought of that one, but you're right. No, it's sci-fi.
Yeah, I really love this movie. I watched it again last weekend, and I think it's really, I don't want to say like important, but I can't help but watch it and think I wish I had this movie when I was a kid. Because I definitely would have been drawn to it. I was totally drawn to these types of female leads, and I like one of the movies that I really attached myself to when I was a kid was Contact, just because it was a girl who was like, she got on well with the guys. She liked the science, and she liked outer space, and had a great relationship with her dad and stuff like that. And I don't know. I was so like attached to her. It was the closest thing that I saw of what I wanted to be, that I just like attached myself to her, and I would have liked to have had this movie also when I was a kid, but I have it now as a young adult.
Very good.
You laughed a little too long. But and I still think it's great, and I'm glad it exists for young kids now. And I think I love what the angle with the scrolls that they do. I love seeing young Sam Jackson. There's some great 90s puns. And I think Brie Larson's great in it. You know, people think she's a bit dry, but I think that's a choice. I think that's a character choice, and there's a reason for it. And I like it. I think it's, yeah. I'm glad this movie is here.
I like the movie. I think it was fun to be had. I mean, I don't think it necessarily rose above a lot of the other Marvel stuff for me, but I think there was some solid stuff in there. I will say that I didn't like the cinematography. I thought the movie looked oddly underexposed a lot of the times, which was really weird. But
can't say I agree. I don't know. I like the look of the film. I like that it looks a bit like a 90s movie too. Like it's a bit grittier.
But hey, so that's your number 15. My number 15 is Edge of Tomorrow, which is the Groundhog Day of science fiction. This is Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, Bill Paxton. Not too long before it was a few years later, but like this is the last big movie I remember him being in before he passed away.
Yeah.
So, surprisingly funny in places.
Not over it.
Yeah. No, I mean, Bill Paxton might be the biggest sort of celebrity death that's kind of hit me, just because he was still too young. He was only like he was like just hitting 60, I think, so he was around that age, and like it was like, oh, he just started starring in a new TV show. He was the lead in a new TV show. It was clearly there was no one thinking he was going to die anytime soon, and then all of a sudden he was just gone. And like, he's a big part of my life because of Aliens and Terminator and Predator 2 even, and Near Dark. And,
he's been killed by everything.
Yeah.
I love Bill Paxton, and I wish he was in this movie a bit more.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because we lost him, you know.
He's a very different.
There's going to be a sequel, and he's not going to be in it, which makes me sad. But
he's a very different Bill Paxton in this, though, because he's this hard ass general who like fast talks, and
he's so good at like caricatures, though.
Oh, he is.
You know, and I watched Big Love. I watched all 4 seasons, and I think it was 4 seasons, maybe it was 3. Well, I watched the whole series of Big Love, and it's hard not to just totally fall in love with Bill Paxton in that movie or in that show. He's so likable, and even though he's a polygamist, you kind of buy it by the end. Like you get his reasoning, and you're like, okay, this seems to work. They're all consenting adults, whatever. But it's I miss Bill Paxton too, and I guess I got so used to seeing him as like a regular father figure in that show for however many seasons it was, that you kind of forget that he's just really good at also just these tiny little caricature pieces. And this is a great example of it.
What I loved about this movie is obviously it's really fun because it's playing with the looping elements, and there's some humor in there and stuff. But what I like about it is that it has a really good arc for the main character. I think
definitely
it uses the time looping mechanic to essentially turn this coward because Tom Cruise is kind of like this coward who doesn't want to actually help, and he wants to like hide and run away and just do paperwork. He
has like a high position in the military because of his family. Like he was like a senator's kid or something, or he's like, whatever, you'll just skate by, have this job that doesn't actually put you in danger.
And there's this beautiful thing where by the end of the movie, even though to everyone else he's not been found out because the days reset over and over again, he's actually had this arc where he's actually, at least to the audience, has earned the respect that he's been given by everyone, even though they don't know he's actually earned it yet, but we do. And it's this really great thing where it pays off for me. And Emily Blunt's great in it as well. And there's a couple of like typical movie tropes that here or there, especially when it comes to like winning the day at the end. There's a couple of like just need to do this because it's a movie basically. When it's at its weakest. But
the final like act when it's like, okay, we're not resetting anymore, so now everything is like for real, life or death. And it's like, it's so tense. Like everything's earned. I love this movie.
Also, some of his deaths early on, because that's how the day resets, is every time he dies, the day resets. Some of his deaths early on are pretty funny. Where
hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's a video game, right? Like
yeah. So no, Edge of Tomorrow, really good, nice surprise. And I'm actually surprised this high, because originally I had it lower, and then I kept thinking about it, and I'm like, I'm going to bump up a little bit. I'm going to bump up just a bit higher, because it's actually really good, and it's stuck in my head. And also, Full Metal Bitch is a fantastic little phrase.
I wish I could take that name.
Honestly, that should be the title of the sequel. They should just go for it. Call it Full Metal Bitch.
Yeah.
Even the poster's PG-13, but that's fine. What is your
much better title than Edge of Tomorrow?
Yes, and Live Die Repeat, not that great either.
Nope.
All You Need Is Kill, which was the original story, I do like as a title just because it sounds more unique, but arguably it's not as clear what it actually is. But whatever. Not every movie has to be snakes in a plane, alright? You don't have to describe what the plot is. I wonder what that's about. Alright, Tara, what is your number 14?
Controversial pick. Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Do you know what? I just to give you an idea when this was recorded, I just recorded the 2.5 hour Rise of the Skywalker review earlier today. So I'm out in Star Wars. You talk. I'm done.
I think this movie is so ballsy because Force Awakens came out and it gave the fans what they wanted. It gave everybody the characters they wanted to see again. It left everything on a cliffhanger with Luke Skywalker, and it was so positive, and we did everything right. We know how to do everything. And then The Last Jedi opens, and the opening scene is Luke Skywalker taking the lightsaber and just saying, throwing it away. Like, here's your expectations. Whatever you think this movie is going to be, it's not it. And I love how it grown up it is. It's a movie that's taking everything, like the comic book aspects of Star Wars or the hero's journey, and it's saying, let's make a left turn here and say, what if Rey's parents were nobody? We know you have all these theories and speculations, and let's do that, which I know. And and the relationship between Kylo Ren and Rey, and her needing a mentor and him stepping in as the villain to provide that mentorship when Luke can't do it, the whole Rashomon kind of scenes with Luke and Kylo when he was younger. I think the movie it's really ballsy, and I really do like it. And I get there's some parts that are not as fun, or some characters that are not as great, but I love that the movie takes so many chances, and I love Luke Skywalker's journey by the end of the movie as well. Like he becomes the myth, that he made fun of, and he does it just naturally, and I think it's perfect. I really do love The Last Jedi, and it's got porgs. Thank you, Rian Johnson.
I'm going to say two things. One is that I have a newfound respect for this film after seeing Rise of Skywalker, because I don't necessarily think it works, and I don't necessarily like a lot of the things that are in it. It did try to do something new, and the one decision that I really liked in this movie, the idea that Rey's parents were nobodies and it doesn't matter who she is because not everyone has to be connected to someone from the past. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a great choice. So I'll leave that there, and just Rise of Skywalker was pretty not good. That's all I'm gonna say. No, that's all I'm gonna say.
Still like it. I just,
in fact, can I just,
stuff is lazy.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's absolutely lazy. Terrible. I'm going to do one sort of kind of, this is a very mild spoiler for the movie. I mean, I'm sure by the time this goes out, everyone's seen it if you care about Rise of Skywalker. Oh, yeah, I'm
sure.
But I'm just going to give you a little brief warning here, not a major thing, but I will say this: given everything you said there about how you felt about Luke's journey, surely you hated the scene in the new movie where he basically just contradicts everything and says, no, don't throw the lightsaber on the fire. You do all this. Here's my ex-wife. He basically gives a speech that contradicts every message that he was trying to give her.
I'm still processing the film, which is why it's on my list at number 25.
You could have just not put it there because it's too new and had Into Darkness be number 25.
No, it's Star Trek: The Rise of Skywalker or Star Wars: Into Darkness.
All right. Okay, that was your 14. My number 14. We're going to get a little bit more classy here. I need class to join up a little bit. We're going to talk about Arrival, which is Denis Villeneuve, a director who everyone is really hot on. He's kind of like, he's basically Nolan.
Really?
Sorry?
I thought he was universally praised.
Well, yeah. Well, I just said everyone's pretty hot on him.
Oh, I thought you said that not everybody's pretty hot on him.
No,
really?
No, everybody's pretty hot on him. He's basically like Nolan a few years later. So obviously they're both still functioning, but he feels like, not to make the exact same types of movie, but just the way he's been received is this kind of like, okay, he's a good director and he's kind of selling his movies based on him. Although that said, unlike Nolan, commercially he's not quite hit the mark yet. Like he's not really made a lot of money with these movies, but the way that the film nerd community kind of treats him though is very Nolan-esque. I feel it reminds me a lot. But a lot of correlation.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fangirl. Yeah. I think he's proven himself.
What's funny is I think he's really
deserved.
I think he's really, really good. And I do think he's a bit more hit and miss with me personally. I don't necessarily love everything he's done.
I think I've only seen 2 of his films. I don't think I've seen anything before Arrival.
Sure. But Arrival, I think, is a really good movie. I think it's a really smart sci-fi movie because it's a sci-fi movie where it's not about fighting. It's a sci-fi movie that's about communication and it's about first contact in a way that I've never seen done before. It has some fun twists and turns, of course, as well. But it's all about trying to be peaceful with the alien race that arrives. It's not about, starting to shoot each other. And I love that that's never really a thing. I mean, sure, there's some conversation about what happens if they become hostile, but that's not what the movie's about, and it never tries to be. Yeah. This feels a lot more akin to something like A Day the Earth Stood Still. I mean, admittedly,
I agree.
They do try and shoot at him, and that, don't get me wrong, that does happen. But for the most part, that movie's about, no, he's trying to communicate something to us. We have to listen to him. And this movie's very much that for a modern age.
I agree, and it's also very, very rewatchable because of the way the twist happens at the end. It kind of makes you look at the movie differently from the very beginning.
And it introduced the world to the music that plays at the start and the end, which has now been used in like 5 different TV shows and at least 10 adverts since. Because it's not music that was written for the movie. It was just like a piece by Max, I think Richter's his name. And it was in season 1 of Castle Rock. It's been in trailers for things. Like it's all over the place. Like if you heard it, you'd be like, yeah, this is this track. And hell, the official music video has Elizabeth Moss in it for some reason. Like it's a whole thing. Okay. But I think it's the if it's not the official music video, she shot something for YouTube where she's walking around to that music, and it's just there's kind of a music video. But no, obviously you got Lois Lane and Hawkeye together in here, both doing a good job. I shouldn't really say that because Amy Adams is much better than that Lois. Job.
I agree.
Yeah, she's really good. She did not get to shine as Lois.
I always thought she was kind of a miscast for Lois Lane, but I do think she's a wonderful actress.
I can see her working as Lois Lane if Lois was written as Lois, but they didn't really rate her as Lois strictly. They just kind of wrote her as reporter lady. Like it wasn't Lois. Same with Cavill as Superman. Like if they'd actually written him as Superman, I think he may have done a good job, but they didn't.
I mean, he looks the part.
Yeah, he definitely looks the part. But when you see him smiling in interviews, you're like, no, that's Superman. I just saw Superman in his face, but he never gets to do that in the movie.
Yeah.
And the one time we do get to see him do it, the top of his lips CG'd because they have to hide a mustache.
His weird baby mouth.
Oh, so weird. But yeah, Arrival is fantastic and very unique, and I appreciate that it's more of a thinking person sci-fi film and not about the action, which is probably why it's not a huge mega hit, but it did quite well for what it was. Actually, it did. That's just one of his more successful films.
I think that was a good word of mouth movie that people saw and then got other people to go see.
His next film though cost a lot of money and did not even come close to breaking even.
No, it did not.
I've got a funny feeling it'll come up, so I won't say what it is. So that was my number 14. What's your number 13?
My number 13 is another franchise. It is War for the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
Yes. I again, we're dealing with Caesar. This is the trilogy of the decade. I think it is a beautiful conclusion where Caesar is Moses looking upon the Holy Land and allowing his people to go forth, and it's a great antagonist with Woody Harrelson.
Do you know what I loved about this? Is I loved it when I went into it, even though I'd seen the trailers, I didn't really know what the plot was. Like they really kept it under wraps, and something really big happens.
And the title is a little misleading too.
Yeah, because there's not really a war per se. It's kind of a misleading. Yeah, but I mean that's the only nitpick is that the title's kind of a lie. But like the
whatever. I mean, it's the third one.
I'm not going to spoil it, but there's something big that happens in like the opening act that kind of sets up the motivations for the characters, and it's so like I got emotional because it's so emotional.
And I love that that Caesar is so tormented by the events of the previous film, and the decisions he had to make is still sticking with him. And I like I love Bad Ape. We get Steve Zahn, always a plus.
Do you know what I love about this series? And obviously Matt Reeves, who did the second two, is fantastic and proved that he's fantastic with these. But do you know what I think part of what makes these so special is that because the apes, other than Caesar, can't speak out loud, and there's occasional sign language, sure, but for the most part it forces it to be completely visual, and I think that actually almost forces them as storytellers to get really creative and tell the story based purely on that, and it's beautiful.
I mean, and you couldn't do this without performance capture.
Oh, absolutely, because
everything is just in the eyes and the subtle movements, the body language, and they're not even playing humans.
Yeah,
they have to do ape language.
And I love that some of the other apes are ones that we've had since Rise. You know, the orangutan, whose name I'm forgetting, but like, you know, some of the apes are still there from the first movie. Like, his old time friends.
And and they brought in elements to tie it back into the original movie, which I appreciate that was brought up too. And
although I will say this, I don't necessarily think in my head that the version of the original movie that exists is the one that kind of happens in this universe, just because it feels so tonally different, you know?
I do. I think that original Planet of the Apes movie really holds up.
No, it's
just the first one.
No, it's great.
The other ones are fun B movies, but I think the first one does, and the spaceship is in Rise.
Well, no, I'm not saying the first one's not good. It is, but it just doesn't sync up in my mind. Like, even though it's great science fiction, it's still just a little bit too of its time to really sync up with what this movie set up, I think. Like,
and maybe, I mean, you could probably remake it so that the apes look more like they belong in the same world, but
I'm not saying
I don't know. In my head, I think it still works.
I'm not saying I want a remake. I guess what I'm saying is that I don't believe that without a proper story telling me that the apes in this movie, you know, giving the Caesar's guidance and where he's got them, would become to humans what in the original Planet of the Apes they are. Like, I just don't see it. And to me, I think that ship in the first movie is a little wink wink nod nod, is a little, hey, we're referencing the first original, come on, it's funny. But I don't necessarily take it as, to me this is kind of neatly the end of the story. And
well, yeah, I mean, this is all about Caesar, so, and I think it's a beautiful way to wrap up the trilogy, and high praise all around.
Yeah,
that is mine, number 13.
My number 13, very different from yours, is a little oddity that goes by the name of Turbo Kid.
I have no idea what this movie is.
This is a science fiction, I've heard it referred to as Mad Max on BMX, which isn't really accurate to what the plot is. Michael Ironside's in this as the villain. That gives you a sense of what we're doing with it. But it's about this teenager. I do
love good Ironside villain.
Yeah, it's about this teenager who basically finds like a superpower glove and also a girl robot, and like the villain's kind of after them. It's really comically violent when it gets going. Like when the violence happens, it's like there's the blood spurting everywhere. It's kind of meant to be this kind of, because I think it starts off by saying in the not too distant future of 1997, like it's intentionally meant to kind of emulate the idea of like a movie made in the 80s that is
My
like
favorite.
pretending to be in the future, but it, you know, like. And it's really and even the thing he finds is like the Nintendo Power Glove. Not exactly, obviously, but that's what it reminded me of. And it's just a blast. It was just such a delightful like B movie that knows what it is, but it has a heart because it has this romance with him and the robot girl, and like I recommend it if this sounds appealing to you. I would highly recommend checking out Turbo Kid.
I suspect we shall watch it one day.
We probably will. What is your number 12?
My number 12 is a small film, small indie film.
Swerve's coming.
By an unknown director.
Swerve's coming. It's a big director. It's a big film. AAA budget.
It's Inception. Yeah, kind of a big movie. Although I'm not like a Nolan super fan, I can't deny Inception is pretty brilliant. It was a fun summer surprise, and I love the puzzle. I think this is probably Nolan's best film. Although I also really love Dunkirk. Don't hate me.
I'm not gonna hate you. I know you like that.
Yeah,
Dunkirk.
It's really good. And it's I'm sure we'll have more to say about it later.
What are you suggesting? How dare you? How dare you predict things? On the subject of Nolan, since we're definitely talking about this later, did you watch the full trailer for Tenet?
Yes. Although I was disappointed that it did not play before the Star Wars movie that I went to see.
Oh, I did get it before the Star Wars movie. And it is... I have to say, because I wasn't really into Dunkirk, and I was disappointed by it, and I am so excited because this feels like Inception Nolan. It feels like Inception Nolan's back, to the point where some people are even speculating it's set in the same universe, and I don't know if he's going to do that, but like, because even that first teaser trailer where it's just your man from Black Klansman, I keep forgetting his name, John David Washington, I say.
Yeah.
Is that right? Oh, okay.
I think so.
It's like it's a name similar to that anyway. But he like
something Washington.
it's just like a shot of him coming in, and he looks at this like sort of bullet hole in the glass, and then he turns his body in this kind of like almost weird robotic way, and it's almost like in time with the music, and it has this feel to it. And he walks down to a second bullet hole and looks at that, but he turns his body back to face it properly, and there's this rhythm in the movement of his body that just makes it feel so real and kind of. It's almost as if like there's some really accurate detail to it. Even that got me excited. But
playing with time, that's his favorite subject.
Oh yeah, the full trailer outright shows time rewinding at points, and that's how they're going to like fight the bad guys or whoever they are. So I am so freaking pumped for this next year. So freaking pumped. All right, I tell you what I said about Deception.
Yeah, I mean, Inception is it has that wonder that you kind of miss from a lot of movies that like old Spielberg films used to have. Inception brought it. Like it was watching the city fold over on itself was exciting. And it's like I'm glad that there are people who have such imaginations, because I would never think of something like this. And it's fun. It's fun. It's a kind of a great heist movie too, and. Yeah. John Bending.
I love when stuff like this has some clear rules, and I love something as simple as when they're like in a dream within a dream. If the top layer they're all asleep in starts flipping, like say they're in a van and the van starts rolling down a hill, that means in the dream within that the entire world starts flipping, and that's why we get that cool hallway fight where Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like, you know, the hallway spinning.
And it made Jogo Lev like cool. I don't remember seeing him before this, other than like since Third Rock from the Sun, really. I think maybe he did some comedies, but then there was this movie, and he was like super cool in it. I don't know. Yeah, that was a surprise.
That was neat.
And I think it's a very unique idea, and that's always gonna play better for me than something that I've seen before. Although I do have a lot of franchises on here, it's just because a lot of the unique ideas in the last decade not all of them worked. Not all of them were great movies. So, but I always love that. You know, I love when I get something that's new and certainly unique.
All right.
So yeah, it's on my list.
Right, my number 12 is a film I don't think Tara's seen. This is Another Earth, which, again, a little indie, little art housey. And this is Britt Marling, who went on to do the OA on Netflix, which lasted 2 seasons, and unfortunately didn't get to do any more. But it's very much her. She stars in it, but she also wrote the script, I believe. She's a writer, and you can tell she has a very distinct kind of like feel and tone she likes to give her stuff. And this is a movie about basically one day in the sky appears a second Earth. It's about as big as the moon, like in terms of what it looks like, and this other Earth's appeared. Now, admittedly, this movie does not really go into, at least from memory, like why like tides and shit aren't like all acting crazy because there's another planet so close. But roll with it, because it's a little sci-fi drama. Because what happens is
it's a premise that's set up in order to say, okay, go with it because we have something to say about humanity or something, right? So
Britt Marling, her character is drunk driving, and she kills a family. She kills like this guy's wife and kid, and it cuts months later, and there's like and the sci-fi stuff about the Earth is just kind of stuff that's in the background, where you hear the news say, oh, we're gearing up to maybe have the first flight to the new Earth, and like presumably they're doing the same thing, and everyone's speculating what the Earth is and so on. But the actual drama of it is her trying to go and befriend the husband that lost his family, but without telling him who she is. She kind of like, I mean, I don't even think she does it intentionally at first. She kind of like runs into him or something like that. But it's kind of this drama about her trying to like find redemption. She can't live with herself, and it's just, it plays with this idea like the other Earth, is it full of different people, or is it copies of all of us? You know. And one of the things it actually plays with is that the idea that the other Earth is identical. And this is, I guess, a mild spoiler, but this is quite early on. I think this is brought up, or at least I remember knowing this anyway. Is that the other Earth is actually, at least they theorize the other Earth is identical, or at least it was until the night that they appeared to each other, and that's where things changed. And things only were different. But it's a really cool little indie movie. And I like it. I think it works for everyone. I think it's the tone and the pacing is the sort of thing that might put some people off. But if you like this sort of little indie movie, I really recommend it. So, what is your number? It's
pretty high on your list. So,
yeah. What's your number 11?
My number 11 is The Martian.
Hey.
Another repeat, but yeah, time and time I lose faith in Ridley Scott, and then every now and then he just comes out with a gem. It's just like, this movie is fun, it's emotional, it's got a great performance from Matt Damon, who basically has to just stare into the camera and do a YouTube video for like half the movie, or if not more. By like half the scenes, and it's got beautiful effects. Like, you really do feel like you're on Mars when you're watching it, and it is
Joe,
it's great.
I think what I love about it is not only how dangerous it is, but how the whole movie's about he's got a great line at the end. I won't spoil it, but there's a great line at the end about how you just have to keep solving problems, and I think that's what the movie is. It's like all these problems keep okay, first of all, how do I eat? Like, how do I do this, and how do I survive this way? How do I achieve this thing?
I get water. Let's grow some potatoes. Some potatoes.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, I like I said, I listened to the audiobook, and the book is just as good, and I think the movie is just a very faithful adaptation. There's some things that are not included, but you got to do that sometimes when you adapt things to the screen. And I love it. I love this movie. It was just such a surprise, and I think it was one of my favorites of the year when it came out, so it was definitely always going to be high on my list.
Yeah. My number 11 is Annihilation.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's Alex Garland movie. And this is the sort of thing where when I watch this again, I might even go up higher. And I think the one point against it when I watched this is that it was just about 6 months before this I saw Stalker for the first time, the Tarkovsky film, and that movie is clearly the inspiration for this. So this movie, as much as like Interstellar is Nolan's 2001, this is Alex Garland's Stalker. Like, it really is.
I mean, this movie is from a book series.
Oh, really?
Which,
well, in that
I don't
case,
know when it came out.
In that case, the book might have been inspired heavily by Stalker, unless it's an ancient book, in which case, fair enough. But like, there's a lot of similarities, and it's the men can't go in there in this bubble. Basically, something's landed on Earth, and it's made this bubble, and it's expanding gradually. So they've sent like a team in to go and try and find out at the epicenter what's causing this, and can we do anything about it. It has a really sort of surreal atmosphere as they go through this. There's really unnatural things.
It's so dreamlike.
Yeah,
there's something about it being in it that's like it's very calming, and like a lot of weird stuff is happening, but it's almost like you're watching it through the lens of a dream, where it's like, do I have control? Should I be afraid? But
there's also weird things happening to the nature. There's mutations.
It is so beautiful.
There's a I'll just say a bear at one point that is very memorable.
Terrifying.
Very
that
good.
Scene is
and
really
honestly, the ending, the last like 10-15 minutes actually gave me really under the skin vibes, since you mentioned that one already.
Definitely. I mean, I think that the last part of the film is where a lot of people get turned off by the film, but
it's the best part.
Really loved it.
It's the best part of the movie, is that the last 10-15 minutes.
I loved it. Yeah.
It's great.
I think it was such a great payoff.
It's really, again, it's a sort of thinking person sci-fi where it doesn't just spell out things to you. You have to kind of like, you know, and it's got there's some open-ended elements to it where it's open to interpretation at the end. And it definitely wants you to think about what you're seeing and to think about what it means and what is this entity or being or whatever it is. Like, what is it, and what does it, you know, what does it want? What is its purpose? These are all interesting questions. And obviously it studies the human drama as well, and all of this is really interesting stuff. Now, admittedly, Stalker, which is a lot more kind of like less visually stunning, although it's really well directed for what it is, because Tarkovsky's great at that. But that movie, when I saw it just a few months before this, was like a straight 10 out of 10. Like, me and Connor both gave it a 10, and that's the only time I think me and Connor have ever watched a movie for the first time and both gave it a 10 immediately. We were so in love with it. So Annihilation only suffers because it's got that to be compared to, and it came out like a 9 out of 10. And it's like, it's obviously amazing. It's just, you know, like, I can't wait to watch it again away from that scrutiny, but it is starting to look at, cast are pretty solid, but it's all the ideas and the visuals and just some really haunting kind of moments and ideas that really make it work. And
haunting's a good word for it.
And when it comes to science fiction, if it's got ideas that keep me thinking, or it's got ideas or mechanics because of the sci-fi that makes it entertaining in a way, then those are the things that I look for. One of those two things, and this is definitely the ideas that make me think and make me ponder life and meaning. And, you know, are we all just a wheel on the road running out of spins? I don't know. I try to say something really, really pretentious, but I just couldn't do it.
You try to go deep, huh?
Yeah. I was actually trying to kind of like steal something from the last season of Twin Peaks. So it was an intentionally silly moment with this pretentious character.
I've never seen it, so
I know.
It would have been lost on me anyway.
I know. I was hoping something. I wasn't misremembered. For the record, I remember what the quote was. It was, "May the road rise up to." Or I remember it vaguely. May the road rise up to meet your wheel, or something like that. That was the line. But anyway, so that was my number 11, which means we're actually entering the top 10.
Ooh, we're in the end game now.
Yep.
End game's not number 10.
So Tara, why don't you kick us off with your number 10?
My number 10 is Ex Machina.
That's a neat little. So Alex Garland, who directed Annihilation, the film he did before that was Ex Machina.
Yes, another excellent science fiction movie about artificial intelligence and the possible, ramifications of creating something that is too human and trusting something because it is human-like. And it's it's really, I mean, I guess technically there are 4 people in the film, but it's really just the interactions between the 3 people, and is he being manipulated? Was she created for him specifically, or is he like trying to, like, you think you're watching her try to prove that she deserves to be human, but it turns out to be something so much worse. And I really was surprised when I went and saw this one. I went and saw it, and I was the only person in the theater, and I heard it was decent. So my expectations were kind of low, because I mean, even when something has somewhat decent reviews, people go to the movies. So, but yeah, I was the only one in the theater, and was totally immersed in the whole story. And I think it's masterfully done. The visual effects won that year for the Oscar, and like, it is seamless. It's great. Again, Alex Garland, anything he does, I will go see.
If this came out the same year as an Apes movie, I'll be upset about it. But if not, then fair enough.
I don't think so.
If not, then fair enough. It deserved to win.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I remember being surprised when it won. I mean, that makes sense. Like, it is seamless, and for the budget it had.
Yeah, it was relatively low budget.
It beat, like, things, with a huge budget, which were in the category.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
Actually, one of the weirdest snubs for me in terms of visual effects Oscars, even though obviously I'm not going to stand here and stick up for anything else in Transformers, but Transformers visual effects, when that first one came out, were kind of mind-blowing, like how good they looked.
Oh yeah,
and definitely. That year, I'm pretty sure the Golden Compass with that shitty CG polar bear one, and I was like, what?
I saw a helicopter transform into a robot.
Yeah, baffling.
Okay, fine.
Baffling. My number 10 is Dread.
Whoa.
Carl Urban is here. He's back from Star Trek Beyond. Oh, this was first, but that doesn't matter. He's back from Star Trek Beyond, and he never takes his helmet off. This is. Do you know what this movie is, and why it's so good? Is that it's a John Carpenter movie that John Carpenter never got around to directing.
Yeah,
that's what it is. I can
see that.
It feels like that, and like Lena Headey is the villain. Is it very good? Or Headey? Is that how you pronounce it? She's really good.
That's how I've always pronounced it. I don't know.
I love that it's all set in the one building. It's it's this block war, this skyscraper. He goes in and he's just trying to get to the bad guy. I love Judge Anderson as well. I think she's really likable and gives it the heart, because obviously Dredd doesn't really have heart. He's stoic. He's very he's Dredd.
Yeah.
And do I love, because like I do kind of love how cheesy and stupid the Stallone movie is, right? And I loved, and I always joke about how many ways they say I am the law, I am the law, like
the law.
But what I love about this is this movie says it once and it makes you wait for it. So when he says I am the law, you basically jizz your pants. It's like it feels so good. Like he just because he gets on the comms, because everyone thinks they've got him beat because he's outnumbered, they've got many guns, it's gangs and gangs and gangs of people, and Dredd's on his own, and he gets on this comm system and says you're not above the law, or that doesn't say that line, but he's like, you're not above this, I'm coming for you, you're not getting away with it, I am the law, and that's it. And he just
have you seen the Raid films?
I have, yes.
I have not seen them, but I've heard often that this gets compared to those films.
The first one, the second one, not really, but the first one is compared to it because again it's in one building, but it's the martial arts version of Dredd. I think Dredd is better overall, even though the stunt work in the Raid is phenomenal. I think the Raid 2 is better than the Raid 1 though.
I haven't seen any of them, but I'd like to, because I also really love Dredd.
I actually saw the Raid 2 in theaters, and they're Indonesian films. I actually saw an Indonesian film from Netflix last year called The Night Comes For Us, which is it's a very good fighting action movie. I recommend that. A lot of good stuff in that.
Check it out.
But what was I saying? Yeah, I saw the Raid 2 in theaters. And it was one of those things where it was when I went to the theaters in the city, so they had a bit more stuff like foreign films that I wouldn't normally get. And I see the Raid 2 because I liked the first one. And I just remember there was a guy, this really nerdy guy, like in the row in front of me, sort of over at the end. And every so often he would laugh and slap his knee when something cool happened. And he was so into it. And that's really rare. Americans may not realize this, but British people in cinemas are pretty respectful and quiet, and unless it's a comedy, I mean, obviously if something's funny you'll hear laughter, but there's no woos and hollering, there's no like, no one audibly does anything other than laugh.
I think we know that about the Brits.
Yeah. So this really stuck out. Is this guy felt comfortable enough to start. Like, everyone else is like dead quiet, and he's like, and I remember him like, and I remember sitting there. I was sitting there like getting ready to leave, and the credits were rolling, and he was like up first, and he was walking. And I just remember looking down because it was like this theater had like the steps going down, like the seating was very raised. And I just remember walking down, and he sort of like had to turn to go around the aisle that sort of went round the sort of the front of the seats. And I just remember he was sort of dancing as he was walking out, and I just this visual of this nerd with long hair and a hat on just really stuck with me. This guy was really into this, and I could tell he was an anime fan. And no offense to anime fans, but he was definitely an anime fan.
Oh, I know the type.
Yeah. And I just remember he was so into it. He was so gleeful, and I'm not even making fun of him. I was just like, he's really into this, and it's really cool what we're seeing. So, fair play. But anyway, I'm here to talk about Dread, which is just oozing cool. It's like a Carpenter movie. The music's great. The thumping sort of music, it's very pulsing, the music and all that sort of stuff. And you've got the slow-mo drug that gives it these
Oh yeah, it's such a cool effect.
Yeah, I love my only actual complaint about the movie itself is that, so I'm going to put the spoiler word. I'm going to hold my hand up for spoilers. You could come back with my hands down. So at the end of the movie, when he kills Lena Headey's character, he ejects her with slow motion first before he pushes her off. So she fought, because this building has like a central sort of shaft, right? So you can sort of like throw them down the middle, and he throws her down the middle of the building. And because she's on the slow-mo drug and everything appears really slow motion, she's like going down in slow, like really ultra slow, and it's really kind of cool. My only complaint about this movie is that it cuts away before you see her face splat against the concrete. I wanted it in slow motion. I was so ready for it.
See it. Like I like that you get so much of it already. There's so much blood in Dread.
But she was so awful. I needed to see her comeuppance. I needed to, but that's okay. Spoiler over. But yeah, Dread's fantastic, full of colourful characters. I thought Anderson was great in it as well. I liked the actress who played her.
Yeah.
So really good. And I don't
really know her from anything else.
Yeah, me neither. But I'm so pissed that they never made enough money to do a sequel. I'm hoping this TV show that Netflix is apparently behind.
Yeah, I heard about the TV show, but I want another movie.
Yeah, if they get Carl Urban for it, and he's the sort of actor who could do a TV. I mean, he's doing The Boys. Like he's at that level that they could get him.
And I know TV is really good right now, obviously, but like, I don't know. I want something special. I want a special little package. Dread 2. That's what I want for Christmas.
I want more Carl Urban Dread. Make it happen, world. Yes. Please. What is your number 9?
My number 9 is Arrival.
Hey.
Yay. I think it is a very special science fiction film about, like you said, about first contact, about communication. It's nice to get, after like all the 90s disaster films and aliens are evil, it was really nice to get a movie where aliens were just here to help. They were totally benign. They weren't here to try to take our resources or to fight off. It had a very interesting message about communication, and I like the language design. I like I don't care for the alien design, but whatever, they just look like hands.
Yeah. Actually, I said something during Close Encounters, when we reviewed Close Encounters. I think I said Arrival's a better version of Close Encounters, and I'll just repeat it here. Arrival's a better version than Close Encounters.
I really love Close Encounters, but Arrival is a more specific version of that, and it is also
and just for the record,
it's more centered. It's more centered on her journey, just with depression and love, and if you know something bad's going to happen, do you go through it anyway? And
just for the record, Tara, Close Encounters was about communication. That's why I put that out there.
Oh yeah. God, I'm still bringing that up. Okay.
Oh come on, that was a good callback. Anyone who watched that review is going to get a kick out of me saying that. Come on.
Yes. Yes. And Arrival is also a very good movie about communication. Um, yeah, totally love it. I love the design. I love the look of the spaceship. It's just this big like egg floating like perpendicular to the ground. That's so bizarre looking and very, very cool. Cool movie.
It's a very cool movie, I agree. My number 9, funnily enough, is Ex Machina. So yeah, just one slot away from each other. Ex Machina, I mean, you basically said everything, but like performances are very good in this. Alicia Vikander, I'd never seen her in anything before, kind of stole the movie, and I do love. I won't say what it is, but I love the ending. I love just the little like. It's not like super dark. Like I mean, it is dark, but it has this kind of like I can see this turning into a Skynet situation, but we're not even close to that yet. This is early days in the learning cycle, and it's just kind of this curiosity.
It's the dangers of making something human that isn't, and what kind of manipulation that can happen through that. It's really good.
Yeah, really
very
good stuff.
Thought-provoking film.
It's thought-provoking. It's it's one of those things where just every time he goes to talk to her, because they have all these one-on-one interviews, there's this kind of tone to it that just feels really cool. And I like that the tech does feel very just like, in the near future. It doesn't feel like it's hundreds of years in the future. It feels
it feels not too distant future.
Yeah, it feels just a slicker version of what we already have. Plus, he's got this AI built kind of thing. So I really like that. What is your number 8?
My number 8. There's going to be a lot of repeats here.
Okay.
Is Annihilation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved this movie. I loved the. I love all the leads. It's kind of weird to see a film with just 4 females going in to do something that the men couldn't do, but it was just a weird experiment. And I really like Natalie Portman a lot in this movie, and I don't always I think she's fine, but she sold it as someone who is brilliant and also an ex-soldier. And I just love I love how beautiful the movie is. When you first see that buck, that deer with the big antlers, and it's all white and it has these flowers growing out of it, and you're like, what is this? It's beautiful and alien, and something's not right. It shouldn't exist, but it does, and it's there's so many questions, and I just love the dreamlike, and it's also very horrifying.
Yeah,
it's beautifully horrifying.
I mean, there's been a couple that this would apply to, but I mean, I'll just use it here for this one. This is very philosophical science fiction.
Yeah, and it's I think maybe even Midsummer takes from this idea of something being something you can beautiful but horrifying. I don't know. I see a lot of it in it, but it's it was a special film when I saw it, and I really loved it.
Yeah. My number 8 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
That is so high.
It's really high. I love the first Guardians. I think the pacing of this movie is perfect. It ramps up, it never slows down. It introduces a cast of the 6-7 core characters. Obviously there's 5 on the team, but there's a couple other ones, but it makes them all so likable. Yeah, you love them all being together. You love it's insanely funny, because I do think Marvel suffers from its formula a lot, where it feels like it has to insert this type of humor into everything, but Guardians is one of the movies where it really belongs to these characters. It really suits these characters. And I think James Gunn made kind of my type of, I don't think it's not a coincidence that I'm a big fan of something like Firefly, and then this movie kind of comes along and gives me the team of misfits who end up banding together to save the galaxy. Right, it's very much my kind of thing. Is the team of misfits. It's one of my favorite type of setups for a group like this.
Yeah.
And the characters are all very likable. I love Rocket, and because I didn't really know who any of these were before. Like, I didn't know who Guardians of the Galaxy was before I'd seen this movie. This was a new concept to me, and when I left the movie, I was sold. I was like, yeah, I'm into this. Are the comics good?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what should I go read? Because these were great. Like,
yeah, it was a risk for Marvel because they were pretty much playing it safe up until Guardians came out.
Yeah.
I think because Guardians was such a hit, they're willing to take more chances after that.
And to be fair,
and some of them, didn't work, like Inhumans, but whatever. At least they took a chance.
Well, I mean, Marvel just didn't do that because that was Marvel TV, which was a different company, basically.
Was it supposed to be a movie? And
it was
then
originally
became a TV show,
yeah.
and then.
But the weird thing is that they can just do anything because they've kind of established that those TV shows are not part of the continuity now. Because I mean, they've cast Mahershala Ali's Blade, and that says, okay, so I guess Luke Cage.
I know, I can't wait. What a perfect casting.
So we'll see. But Guardians for me, it's my second favorite Marvel movie for the record. Guardians of the Galaxy, and I hold it very highly. Even though sometimes I get a bit fatigued with the Marvel movies, I get a bit fatigued with how many of them are. They're going to be at 4 a year starting very soon.
I always say that, and then I go to watch the movie. I'm like, I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, I don't get.
But I will say I do get really excited when it's something that is coming out looks like a blockbuster, but it's not a superhero movie. I'm like, oh. I'm really gonna hold on to this. Yeah, there are a couple on my list here also that are gonna come up.
Like Tenet, which I guess we'll be reviewing because it's a sci-fi movie. We didn't really know that. Tenet. We didn't know that for sure, but I think the trailer definitely confirms it. The new one, like there's science fiction happening.
Definitely.
So that's an ace joint, that one.
Suck it, Connor.
So. Yes, that was my number 8. So you're number 7, Ron.
Okay. My number 7 is Godzilla.
Whoa! I can respect it.
I know it's really high, but I mean, like I said, I did get a little bit of superhero fatigue, and then here comes the king of the monsters, Godzilla, and it was so just like. I mean, I sort of brought it up already, but I love the scale in this movie. And I know they try to do it again in King Kong. And I think it really just proves that Gareth Edwards knew what he was doing in it, because I don't think Kong Skull Island is successful as this.
No, I mean, it's fun for what it is, but it's not particularly, great. Actually, I just realized something just when you were saying it. I was thinking about what was actually out in 2014. 2014 was actually a pretty good year for blockbusters, because 2014 was Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Godzilla, Interstellar. That's a pretty solid lineup. Because I feel like this past year for blockbusters has been pretty. I mean, Endgame obviously was the biggest thing ever, but
yeah, I guess
name a few more.
Yeah. I mean, we already kind of gushed about Godzilla, but it's higher on my list because I really wanted to have something that was different from the superhero, and I got Godzilla. And you can complain about whatever the human characters. I didn't care. They were just a vessel for me to eventually get to Godzilla. And because it was such a tease throughout the whole film, when we actually got the big battle at the end, it was, I mean, what a payoff. It was beautiful. I could have cried when he had this atomic breath, because at that point I just forgot about it, you know? And then his tail starts glowing up, and it's like, oh my God, he's going to do it. I forgot that Godzilla could do this because I was so into it. And yeah.
It was magical. It was a magical experience.
It was a magical movie experience. And I think I put it up on my list. There's a couple of these on here. I put them up higher on my list because I find myself always defending them. I saw this movie with my sister, who is a huge fan of Breaking Bad and wanted to see Godzilla versus
Heisenberg.
Because that's what the trailers were. And we left the movie and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And she said, but Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, but I have more Bryan.
That, her theater experience was ruined.
Don't get me wrong, like, would I have liked more Bryan Cranston? Sure. But, like, it's not like the plot justified for him to have any more to do. So it's, it's whatever.
No,
so, very good. Very good. My number 7 is War for the Planet of the Apes, which you have already talked about. So
yeah, that was my number 13.
yeah, this, like, I had such an emotional experience during this film because at this point, like, Rise gained my respect, Dawn kind of blew me away, and then but at this point I'm so invested in Caesar's story, I'm so invested in what's happening with him that.
And like, it's hard to land the trilogy.
It really is. And like, this was the thing that me and Connor did our top 10 trilogies at some point earlier this year, and like, I realized that with the completion of this one, it's like, oh hey, like, we actually have like another trilogy that is fighting for like a really high rank, because this is higher than some of the other big ones. Like, it really is. But I used, like, it's the touching emotional ending. It does this great thing where Caesar's kind of in a prisoner camp for a while, and they're working essentially as forced labor, as slaves, and like, basically, look, I don't think I've ever felt so uplifted than when he as a big moment where he could, like, sort of choose to attack and sort of start a bit of a revolution, and he kind of, like, chooses to take the higher grounds, and I don't know, there's a beautiful. Like, he's a wonderful character. I can't speak highly enough for this trilogy. So,
love you, Caesar.
War for the Planet of the Apes, number 7. What is your number 6?
My number 6 is another movie that I find myself defending a lot, and because I talk it up so much,
no wait, that's Tim. Sorry,
higher up on my list.
I said The Boy. Oh no, wait, that's Tim. Never mind.
It is Tomorrowland.
Whoa! Yeah.
I know it's high, but I really love this movie. I love just like you mentioned before, optimism. I mean, that's like the central part of the film. It reminds me of like the old Disney films that we used to get, like Escape from Witch Mountain, that has like this charm to it. Because it feels like a movie that could have come from that time, and it's just so positive, and yeah, I know the message is not always easy for people to hear, but like, it is important. Like, this is the main thing that we're going through right now. It's like, how do we want our generation to be remembered? I think we're going to be remembered as the people who knew better and did it anyway. So why not, like, leave something better for humanity? And I like these movies, and I like this movie a lot.
Hey, I appreciate the balls and the placement of this one. I do. I appreciate it. I'm still mad about it.
I know.
I'm still mad.
I know I'm a rare breed, but
I'm still mad about the dual placement at number 25, but some respect has been somewhat earned. My number 6 is Gravity. From 2013. This is Alfonso Cuarón's Sandra Bullock, pretty much one-woman show. There's a little bit of other characters early on, but very quickly it becomes just her. And
yeah, what a ride.
Yeah, this is like a thrill ride. It's so suspenseful, and it's all much like The Martian. There's a lot of problem solving and trying to think things through, and she's so, like, isolated, and she's so alone. But there is a human story at the center of it. It's about her kind of accepting something. And one of my favorite pieces of music from the decade, from a movie, is the music that plays as, and I mean, mild spoiler, I guess, but I mean, as she's descending to Earth, there is this wonderful music that I think is absolutely stunning. I think the ending is perfect. I think it's one of the best endings of the decade, because it's the perfect thing. Like, it's almost like they're doing forced photography here, where she looks like she's taller than she should. Like, it's almost like there's like small trees and she's like much taller than them, as if she feels really big, and it isn't, but it just feels that way because she feels she's standing tall. It's just an incredible journey, and it's an experience. I saw it like 3 times in the theater because I loved it.
I only saw it once, and I did see it in 3D, and I was glad that I did see it in 3D, because it's a ride. I'm
a weirdo who saw it 3 times in 2D. because by that point I was no, I'm done with 3D. I'm done. Screw it. Screw it hard. So, Gravity, my number 6, absolutely wonderful. And probably my favorite Alfonso Cuarón film, which is maybe controversial. Some people will say, "What, not Children of Men, or not, Roma, or not whatever." But no, Gravity. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is a really fun movie.
Oh dear.
It's Edge of Tomorrow.
Whoa. Okay. All right.
I love this movie. I think it is so brilliant. I do, like you already mentioned, his journey from becoming from going from a coward to being a hero. You get to watch him die in fun ways. It's sort of a video game that gets serious all of a sudden. I like the design of the aliens even. Like, I think they're pretty cool. Just the idea of using Groundhog Day in a war film to defeat an enemy that you don't understand. Like, it's a pretty decent war film also, which is a genre of movies I really like. And we get an awesome female lead in the Full Metal Bitch.
You're like, I can't remember Emily Blunt's name. I'm just going to say Full Metal Bitch.
I can't remember her character name.
All right, no.
But yeah, she's Full Metal Bitch.
Yeah. No, she's great.
I genuinely just love this movie. Stupid title, but start to finish, the movie's great. Just very smart. And I hear it's based on an anime, so that's the closest anime we'll ever get on my list.
I think it was a manga, actually.
Okay.
But I mean, whatever, same difference. I was it upsetting as I was like picking some of your really high picks in my teens. I was like, this one. You're like, this is like my top 5.
Well, it's gonna be a lot of repeats, but maybe he'll forget by the time I get there.
Okay, so that was your number 5.
These aren't just like the best 25 movies. They're our favorite 25 movies of the decade. And yeah, Edge of Tomorrow is really high on my list.
All right, my number 5 is a film that you've not seen, and it's one that I actually put in the schedule for soon because I want you to see it.
I think I know which one.
Yeah, this is Coherence. This is a film from 2013, and it deals with the idea of parallel worlds, kind of.
Can you say that one more time?
Parallel worlds. I'm sorry. Does my dialect amuse you?
Such a challenging word for the Scots.
Yeah, lots of R's and L's together do not, I can't do literally, for example, is another word that I can struggle with. But this movie is really simple. It's a group of characters at a dinner party in a house. There's a comet going overhead, and basically weird things start to happen, and it begins to question, like, are there other versions of them around somewhere, or is there someone spying on us, or is there and it's so inventive and just full of wonderful ideas, and it's such a nice little low budget, just like smart film that just really plays around with all the concepts that it's playing with, and you feel like you're kind of like piecing the puzzle together as you're watching it, and like it's just really good stuff. Is it
kind of like Twilight Zone-esque?
I guess in a way it maybe has a little bit. Like it's maybe a little more. It's kind of like a Twilight Zone meets like a sort of indie drama, I guess. Like they sort of combine those two things together, and maybe you get coherence. But I'm actually really looking forward to doing this on the show, and not just because it stars Nicholas Brendon, who was of course on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm a stand-up guy. And
okay, yes, he's not the greatest person in real life. I concede, but like that is beside the point. Also, I did my little head nod, which Tara pointed out I do every time I say Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I didn't do it that time because I was kind of, But hey, all right. Number 5 is Coherence.
Notice all your ticks.
What is your number 4?
My number 4 is Mad Max Fury Road.
Well, I'll just jump in. My number 4 is also Mad Max Fury Road.
What?
Yeah, it happened. It finally happened.
I suspect it will happen one more time.
It might. Yeah, so you can start it off. You got there first, but technically, I mean, it's the same as entry, but you know what I mean. Go.
Yeah, I saw this movie like 4 times in the theater because I kept trying to get other people to go see it. And again, it was a movie that definitely won the Comic-Con of that year when they premiered the trailer, and it was just like, what is this? I didn't know I wanted this until now. The how can you make something so ugly, or not ugly, but like something that should
Desolate.
be plain looking, like a desert, just so beautiful. And I love all the lore that they create for this. I'm not as familiar with the original Mad Max movies. I've seen them. I saw the first one more recently, but it is very different from this.
Mm-hmm.
And the stunts in the movie are unbelievable. Like, there really is no substitution for practical
it's stunts, and it's actual stunt drivers, and the whole movie's one big chase scene. Essentially, that's the kind of the pitch of it. Is like it's just one big chase scene.
It's very simple, but like it works.
Tom Hardy's great. Charlize Theron's great in it. The music is fantastic. There's one track in particular, Brothers in Arms, that I have listened to quite a bit from this one. It's just a relentless action film, or sorry, an unrelenting action film is what I meant to say. That, you know, obviously uses its post-apocalyptic setting, uses the type of characters, because the villain's like this demonic little fat asshole with like a breather mask on, and it's just so cyberpunk looking, and like and it's, you know,
mediocre.
And it's funny. It's almost like, I almost wonder if this came out a few years later, if there'd be a bigger like incel like complaint fest about how feminist it is, because I feel like it came out before, like, because I mean, let's be honest, it was probably Force Awakens that kind of started that like movement, if you will, as we know it today.
Because people were like calling her Mary Sue or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like
they got that.
I feel like there's women in this being strong complaint is something that's kind of developed since then, and
because men have always feared women. It's true. I mean, that's why we have witches in history. Like, men are afraid of the power that women have over them.
Yeah, you terrify me.
I know.
You guys haven't heard a cackle. I heard a cackling once. It was it was a scary sight. But no, you're right. That's totally a thing. And even in this movie, like, the villain's trying to control the women around him, and Charlize Theron's kind of this character who's going to break them free because, like, someone has to. And she is this badass character, and Max is this companion to it rather than someone who comes into, like, I'll be the hero, little ladies, you just sit back. Like, no, it's she's still very much the protagonist throughout the film.
It's very much Furiosa's movie. Yeah.
It's stunning.
Max
it's
is just trying to get his car.
There was basically a point where I think this what I said on Twitter. This is weird because it's weird that I've been on Twitter for like enough years now that I'm having Twitter memories from like 5 years ago. But like, I remember coming home from Twitter and my review basically just being, so there's at one point, there's one of the cars is basically just like a flatbed, and there's a guitarist with a wall of amplifiers behind him, and the guitar also happens to shoot fire. And
what's his name, like Doof Man or something?
Something like that. And I just said that sums up the movie. Describing that one vehicle sums up the movie.
Yeah, I love it. I love all the people playing like the big drums on the back too.
My only complaint, and even the way they worship steering wheels, like they've got this big pile of steering wheels, they have to pick one up before they can drive. Like, my only complaint about the whole movie, honestly, my only little nitpick is that there's one little section about 2/3 through that's shot day for night, and I hate day for night with a passion, and it just looks blue.
Blue filter night.
Yeah, I
accept it in this film, but I also I never like it. I think it's okay in this one because it's not just that it's clearly daylight because there's a lot of shadows, but all the actors are like squinting, you know. But the movie is so saturated in color already that it doesn't really take me out that it's
I wonder.
a blue filter night.
I never actually watched the black and white version. I wonder if the black and white helps that section.
I wonder. I've never seen it either.
Yeah, the blood and chrome version, I think it's called. But yeah, so that's both of our number 4s, which leads you to your number 3.
My number 3 is definitely not yours. It is Blade Runner 2049. I mean, this movie surpasses the first one so much. I mean, I don't even really like the first one. We have a review of it, and my score is not very generous. But I really, really love that Denis Villeneuve took the ideas of the first film that were intriguing but were never really explored, and like explored them and really they answer a lot of questions right away, but there's one big riddle overall that you're trying to get towards. Every scene is like a photograph, something you want to put on your wall. Like it's a beautiful movie. It's I don't know. It feels. I wish more people saw it. I tried to get a lot of people to see it, but nobody would. I think because of the length of the film, but I don't feel the length when I watch it. You know, I know it's long. There's a really wonderful scene in like this Vegas like area where like all these holograms with like Elvis and people are popping up during a fight. I just love the exploration of love and, you know, what makes a real relationship. You know, it kind of explores that with and between an android and like a hologram, and it's like it goes even further than the first movie did, and it's I think it's a beautiful film. I love it.
This is a frustrating film for me because I wanted to love it, and there's a lot of things in the movie I like, but there's some stuff that just held it back a bit for me. I think it might work better for me in a rewatch. Admittedly, when I'm going to be in the mood to do the theory, I mean, we're going to have to review it at some point, I suppose, so that'll be a good excuse. But like, it's just Jared Leto's character I hate. I would cut everything with him out of the film. You don't even need him. He's superfluous. He really is. The actual villain who's chasing the characters throughout the film could just be the villain, and like we could refer to it there being a boss, but we never need to see him because he never adds it into the movie anyway. He just shows up and is a Jared Leto asshole for 15 minutes at a time because they're long scenes. He doesn't just show up for like a quick second. Would
it be okay if it wasn't Jared Leto? Like, is it just him?
I think it's a cool.
But if it's someone else playing the part, do you think you'd be okay with it still?
I think it's a little of A and a little of B. I think I still have problems with the character in general.
Because I don't like Jared Leto very much either. And even in the movie, I'm just like, I can get over these parts, but it's not enough for me to lower the movie. Like, I really did love my experience watching this film. And
I think anytime it referenced the relationship from the first movie, like, whenever that was like meant to be the emotional crux of a scene, there's one. It's with a Jared Leto scene, in fact. Where they really sort of tried to sort of play that up, that I kind of like, well, I hated this relationship in the first one, so I'm feeling nothing here. But
me too, but I don't know why it works for me in this movie.
Hey, it may work better for me in a second viewing because I don't dislike it. There's lots of stuff in here that looks and sounds fantastic, and there's a lot of I like that the investigation side of it is definitely more interesting than anything that was the investigation stuff in the original film. So it is what it is. So it might I may go up.
I knew this wasn't going to be anywhere near your list, but I think there's a lot of people who are glad to see it represented at least somewhere. There
was an argument for it maybe scraping the bottom. There was it almost did, but like I need to see it again, and it might I might come through it and have a completely fresh perspective because there was a lot of things I did like. I liked a lot of the emotional journey for the two characters and kind of where it ended and some other stuff. But anyway, that's your number 3. My number 3 is Under the Skin, which you've probably forgotten that I even brought it up yet because you talked about it ages ago.
I knew it was going to be high up on your list.
This movie,
it was my number 17.
This movie is just such a tone piece. Like you're with her as she's stalking the streets looking for her next victim, and it's just like you feel kind of like dirty, and not in like a not
No,
a
I
sexy
agree.
way, but like in a like it's kind of like one of the things I love the Maniac remake, which is the entire film shot from the POV of the killer. Like you feel like grimy that you're kind of
You want her.
yeah
You want her to get the guy. You know.
Yeah.
You want her to pick someone up. Like every time she pulls up next to somebody and says, "Hey, how you doing? You need a ride somewhere?" And they're like, "No, thank you. Go away." Like,
Yeah.
dang, she missed it.
and it's and like it feels so authentic because it is shot in like real places, and you know there's a part later on in the film where she's in like a small village, and I've never been to that village. I have no idea where that is, but it looks like every small village that you might find in the countryside. Like, you know, it just looks real, and like seeing her like go through this and like have this, because one of the things I always hate about movies that are Scottish, well, not all of them but a lot of them, is they always really have to shove the fact that they're Scottish in your face. What I love about this is that it just happens to be set in Scotland. The story has nothing to do with people wearing kilts or drinking iron brew or, you know, bagpipes playing in the background, because all that stuff
I
annoys
watched
me.
it. I didn't know it was Scottish.
Of course not.
I thought it was like Icelandic.
Oh dear. But like she her performance is great, and you have this kind of rawness to it where like she preys upon these men, she lures them in, and we see like every time it happens, because it's a very repetitive film kind of intentionally, but every time it repeats we get more of the sort of the money shot, as it were, the killing or whatever's happening to them, right? Like you get more of it every time. And obviously it's about her kind of eventually deciding that she doesn't want to do that. She starts to grow something of a conscience, because like she eventually picks someone that like is nice to her, and she can't quite bring herself to just end his life, and it really
She pities him.
yeah. So it's a really stunning film. It makes some really harsh points. It's a really depressing film, actually. The ending is actually really sad, because it basically paints a really negative light on humanity. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. But Under the Skin, my number 3. What is Tara's number 2?
My number 2 is a movie that I missed in theaters and rented it, and then rented it again and again, and then said, screw it, I have to own this movie. I love this movie. It is fun and kind of dumb at parts, but I love it. It's Dread.
Yes. Which, fun
It's
enough,
Dread. I love this movie.
by the way, we never mentioned this, but Alex Garland, who did Annihilation and Ex Machina, was also one of the writers, at least, on this.
Oh, really?
He was involved.
I don't think I knew that.
And
Checks out.
there's even buzz that the director, like, he ended up like directing a lot of it, because the director, something was wrong. I don't know. Like,
Actually, I think I did hear about this.
I think that was actually kind of, because this was 2012, so this was before Ex Machina, so this almost ended up kind of half being his first movie, but it's all kind of unofficial. Like, he's not credited as director, but he.
Well, then all of his movies are in my top 10.
Oh, they're almost. I had Annihilation at 11, so it was almost.
Yeah.
Actually, I just realized.
At 10, Annihilation at 8, and Dread at 2. I love Dread.
I had them at 11, 10, and 9. I actually had them in order. Dread was in between the two he directed. I never noticed that. That's kind of funny.
Wow. Yeah.
But yes, Dread's fantastic, as you say.
It is. It is simplistic. It. Unfortunately, it makes me, not like the 90s one that I know you have a soft spot for, but I can't help but watch it and think, but it could have been like this. Like, why does he have to take the helmet off? Because we get that in this movie. He never takes the helmet off, and it's beautiful. We just get his scowl the whole movie. I'm the law. He's so great.
I am the law.
Yeah. Even when I was making my list, I was surprised it was so high, but damn it if I don't love this film.
Actually,
well done.
This is nothing for the audio people, but this will make more sense for the people watching the video.
Nailed it.
All right, Dread's wonderful, yes. My number 2, and I know what your number 1 is now. I know what it is. My number 2 is Inception. So, Inception is like, Inception's one of those movies that like I kind of saw, and it kind of like I left the theater just sort of I had a spring in my step, because it was like I just experienced something that I had never experienced before. It was this new type of movie, even though it's kind of a heist movie. Yes, it takes beats from that, and but like I will go as far to say this might have the best like ending of any of the movies on these lists. Like from the moment that like there's waking up happening, and then Hans Zimmer's best piece of music plays, Time from Inception, as that plays out over the closing like 3 or 4 minutes, is absolutely like, I'm just so into it by that point. Like the entire journey, the building of the team, the setting the rules, explaining what the rules are, the rules affecting how action plays out in the scene, getting the emotional side of it, and yeah, you can pick holes in the plot. If I had $1 for every asshole who said, why don't Michael Caine just fly his family to France, like I get it, right? But then we wouldn't have a movie, so piss off, right?
Yep. That's why you can't say it about the Eagles in Lord of the Rings.
Okay, fine, but the movie's still really boring.
Hard disagree.
Of course you do. So this, like, I love the end. I love, like, it's one of those things. Like, and I remember feeling like,
I do too.
And I want to say
it is fun. Plus, I mean, I did see it in the theaters, and then that ending happens, and you're like, the whole theater just goes, oh,
like, yeah,
they're mad, but also like excited about the fact that the director did that to them.
The theater was packed, and I remember, like, I'm pretty sure there was an audible like noise, like when it cut to the title, right?
Oh, definitely, there's a groan.
And it's one of those things where, and I'm not saying that everyone else in the room didn't also think the same thing I did, but like, when it comes to stuff like this, it was kind of like the final episode of Watchmen that we did recently, where like there's that moment where you, like, I know how this is going to end. I know exactly when this is going to cut to the black, and I respect it. There's a moment like at the end of Inception where I'm sitting watching it, I'm going, at the first time through, I'm like, I know when this is going to cut, but I really hope it just stays a second longer. Just stay that second longer. Give me it. And it doesn't. And you don't need it to. And when we get to reviewing this, I'll give you my full theory as to why the ending's not ambiguous, but I love it so much. Nolan does event movies that are standalone, and he has the clout to just go out and spend $150 million on a movie that isn't a sequel, that isn't a reboot. It's just an original idea that he came up with, and for the most part they tend to end up pretty good, if not amazing. And this is probably his best film, and I'm excited about Tenet, because Tenet is giving me some serious vibes. It's making me feel this feels like 2020, 10 years later. This is going to be 10 years after Inception. We're going to get Tenet, and it feels like this is back in that kind of wheelhouse.
Yeah, great trailer. I'm excited for it.
I love it. So I'm pretty sure we both have the same number 1.
Should we do some honorable mentions at least?
Well, no. Well, what we're gonna do is before we say our number 1s, we're both going to recap. But since I'm pretty sure we both have the exact same number 1, don't say your number 1. Just recap. Go 25 through number 2. Just read them out in a list. Give me them. Okay.
So number 25 is Star Wars Into Darkness. Number 24 is Tron Legacy. Number 23 is Star Trek Beyond. Number 22 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 21 is Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Number 20, Thor Ragnarok. Number 19, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Number 18, Interstellar. Number 17, Under the Skin. 16 is 10 Cloverfield Lane. 15, Captain Marvel. 14, Star Wars The Last Jedi. 13, War for the Planet of the Apes. 12, Inception. 11, The Martian. 10, Ex Machina. 9, Arrival. 8, Annihilation. 7, Godzilla. 6, Tomorrowland. 5, Edge of Tomorrow. 4, Mad Max Fury Road. 3, Blade Runner 2049. 2, Dread.
As far as your number 25 is concerned, to quote one of the best sci-fi movies of the 80s, to quote Kurt Russell from The Thing, when he loses chess against the computer and pours his whiskey into the floppy slot out of anger, he simply utters the phrase, "cheating bitch." So I would like to present that moment as my response to your number 25.
Star Wars Into Darkness?
You know what you did. Alright, so to recap my list so far, 25 was Star Trek Beyond, 24 was Ad Astra, 23 was Tomorrowland, 22, 10 Cloverfield Lane, 21, Interstellar, 20, Monsters, 19 is Rise of the Planet of the Apes, 18, Godzilla, 17, Beyond the Black Rainbow, 16, The Martian, 15, Edge of Tomorrow, 14, Arrival, 13, Turbo Kid, 12, Another Earth, 11, Annihilation, 10, Dread, 9, Ex Machina, 8, Guardians of the Galaxy, 7, War for the Planet of the Apes, 6, Gravity, 5, Coherence, 4, Mad Max Fury Road, 3, Under the Skin, and 2, Inception. Which leads us to the inevitability where we both have the same number 1.
Creed.
I'll let you say it. You've been going first. You get to say number 1, which is clearly also mine.
It is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. There's apes on horses. Of course, it's number 1.
I mean, that's not my reason, but yes, it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this movie's special.
This movie is what science fiction should be. This is about exploring real human problems through the lens of science fiction, and we have the faction of the apes, the faction of the humans. We have characters on both sides who want to make peace, but we also have characters on both who don't want peace, and we see the tragedy play out before our eyes, and you care and you feel lost. You want them to work out. Every time I watch this movie, even though I know how it ends, I'm sitting there saying to myself, just please this time work it out.
Let's just have some peace, guys. Let's just share. Let's just share the world.
Please work out. This is the movie that made me like Jason Clarke, and he's been nothing but trash ever since. And every time
I always root for him because of this movie.
Oh man, Winchester, Terminator Genesis, like he's in Pet Sematary remake. Like, he's just in trash, endless trash.
Damn it, Jason Clarke.
Pick some good movies.
We're also rooting for you. Mm-hmm. Just get a better agent.
Yeah.
I love Koba. I mean, I also root for Toby Kebbell because I love Koba. You know, he's such a he's a villain, but he represents the side of Caesar that he knows exists, and but you know, he wants to hate humans also for what they did to him, but he also knows that he needs to be better than human, and Koba just can't let go of that. And you also kind of empathize with him. You know, he has the scars, the human look, and it's such a beautiful film, and it's such a great But
this is the beautiful thing, right? Is that you empathize to a point, but ultimately not every human did that to you. That was a set, few that did this to you, right? Just like a set few,
because we treated them as lesser, and
that's the beauty.
It's an animal rights movie also.
Yeah, this is the beauty of the story, though, is that you understand why the bad guys on both sides want the chaos or want to just eliminate the other side. You get why they have that fear, but ultimately the true strength comes in realizing and believing that no, there can be better. We can coexist. There is no reason why we have to be at war. There's no reason why we have to hate each other. But like you say, some people who just can't let go of the like Koba can't let go of the hate.
Gary Oldman.
Well, not so much.
Can't let go. Gary
Oldman's actually a lot more sensible in this than it's actually the other guy from Fringe and oh god, I've forgotten his name. But the sort of main human who causes a lot of trouble. He just can't let go of the idea that these are not human. That these are apes, and therefore they are lesser. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he's probably just an asshole in general. But he has that attitude, and you know this type of person. You know exactly. We've all met this asshole. We all have, and like for him to ruin the chance of peace, and Koba to do what he does as well. Like your heart is just dropping every time something bad happens, and it's it's and honestly the effects are stunning. Like there's entire sequences of just like apes talking to each other through sign language, and it looks amazing. The only time the effects falter in this entire movie is the fire towards the end. There's like a lot of fire going on, and that looks a bit ropey compared to other stuff.
Yeah, I agree, but why this movie? I mean, that shouldn't be the reason it doesn't have the Oscar for best special effects.
I agree.
And quite frankly, it should have the Oscar for every category because it was the best movie of that year, and it is definitely the best science fiction movie of the decade. There was no doubt in my mind when I was making my list which one was number one.
Yeah, this was 2014, I'm sure. So this would have been, yeah. No, I agree. This is a modern science fiction masterpiece that deserves to be at the top here, and clearly for the differences that are on these lists, the fact that we had so many crossover picks, and two of which in the top 5 were at the same number. I think this movie, like the rest of my list, they're all fantastic films, and many of them are 9.5 or 10 even, but this movie's an 11. Like this this movie is so far beyond what my expectations were, and it takes the subject matter seriously. It elevates it. It's a great allegory for humanity through the eyes of Caesar, and it's about so many things. For the record,
that I think there was no question for either of us that this one was going to be number one for the list, because it is. I think it's superior to all the rest of the films. Where all the rest of the films, like if they moved around a little bit, I would be fine with that list. But this one has to be number one.
Yeah, for the record, my top 2 are 10s. If I'm telling you what I've rated a 10 on this list, the top 2 are 10s.
Yeah. And
from there, whatever. But but there you go. I said this is the time for honorable mentions. If you want to shout anything else from this decade that you think is worth mentioning.
Sure. I mean, there were some things on your list that I considered, but I didn't put it on. Like, I think Gravity is a really fun ride, but I have no desire to watch it again, and it didn't make my list because of that. I liked Big Hero 6. I think we decided that was a science fiction film.
Yeah, I think that counts.
That was a fun little animated family film that, we didn't represent on the list, but pretty great.
Yeah, I would, and I'm going to steal this from you because I knew you had this because you had to cut it at the last minute, but I think Source Code is worth mentioning. It's not as good as Moon, which was obviously not this decade, but it's a really fun little inventive movie.
Yeah, I agree. I cut that from my list, but I think that was also just a very fun, inventive film, very unique and well directed.
And I'm going to give a shout out to something that I know you're not fond of, but I actually surprisingly was really into Pacific Rim, and I actually really enjoyed the fun of Pacific Rim Uprising, probably even more. Because it was kind of like here's a Power Rangers movie, and I like the Power Rangers movie more than I expected to.
Yeah, I'll say I like Ready Player One a lot. I know a lot of people don't.
I wasn't super.
I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the chase. I enjoyed the Shining sequence a lot. I thought Ready Player One was pretty fun. Attack the Block is also a very good little
solid
like indie film. The introduction to John Boyega before Star Wars. It's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I should probably mention The Endless, which we just did recently, because that was a really unique, again, little indie, low budget movie with a lot of fun ideas.
There weren't any real indie films on my list. I tend to stick with the big ones, but yeah, I guess that's not fair. I also like it's a little love story called About Time. I think that's kind of a fun it's a love story, but it's actually really a story about a father and son, and it's a sweet little time travel movie.
I never seen it, but I've heard of it. I think I remember seeing the trailer when it was coming out. One that I want to throw out there that did very honestly, like I kind of I was swapping this and Star Trek Beyond kind of like frequently until I settled on putting Beyond because I wanted the fun kind of adventure one. But shout out to Midnight Special, starring Michael Shannon, and it's basically a story. It's like, and this was a time after like Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, where like they just don't understand how to do Superman. And this movie comes along and it doesn't match up perfectly, but it is a better Superman movie than either of those. It's this father who's got this kid who's actually an alien, try to like get him to this location and protect him because people like scientists are after him, and it's like a really great little story, and just kind of missed the cut. But I'll give that a shout.
And I know you don't like Looper, but I really liked Looper when I saw that in the theater too.
Oh,
but I don't remember it well enough to add it to my list, so that's why I left it off. Another one I really liked it in the theater, but I know it's not a good movie, was Lucy. What's the matter?
I just realized what I missed, and you missed it as well.
Give it an honorable mention.
This deserves to be like top 10, at least maybe even top 5. I'm actually really upset.
What?
Her.
Oh, I thought about that when we were talking about Ex Machina, but I thought maybe it was just different. I figured it wasn't in the decade because it wasn't on either of our lists.
No, it is. Oh, okay. That's Star Trek Beyond. I mean, I'm not going to officially change it, but for the record, Star Trek Beyond's bumped, and hers got up somewhere reasonably high.
Yeah, her is really good.
I loved her.
If that is in the right decade, then yeah, okay, fine.
It is. It definitely is. So yeah, her.
Okay, I'll bump Star Wars Into Darkness for her.
Did we just fix your list? Did we just fix your list and get your shitty? I mean, not only the bad movies, but this cheating nonsense.
Yeah, we were talking about Ex Machina, and I thought her popped in my mind. I thought, oh, I missed her, and then I realized, oh, that's probably not in the decade. That's why I missed it. Maybe it was 2009.
Yeah, of course, we have to give an honorable mention to Transformers: Age of Extinction for being an absolute gem of. I'm kidding. That's the one with the laminated rape license. So yeah, which is why that one sticks out in my mind.
Well, I didn't see it, so it's not on my list.
Did you hear about this scene? This moment?
Oh, yeah, you've brought it up before.
Yeah. Oh my god, I cringe so bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible. Anyway, right. Any last honorable mentions you want to throw out there before we?
I think I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, that has been our top 25 sci-fi movies of the decade. Even though we both shamefully forgot about her.
Yeah, I don't know where it would be on my list. I'd have to look it over again. But
yeah,
I mean, what counts as number one?
Yes,
it's not number one.
But it would be. It would be high. I think it would definitely be in the top 10 for me, but oh well. Yeah. Mistakes have been made. For some reason, I missed that when I was doing my research to find movies.
Me too. It didn't pop up on my list, or because I googled like by year.
Very odd. Maybe they just weren't listening. It's definitely science fiction, but maybe they just weren't listening as that for some reason. That happens sometimes. This is just a romantic drama. Yeah, it's also in the future, and she's an AI.
Let's do it again.
This has been over 2 hours long. You're a mad woman. Take 2. So it's only almost 1 a.m. All right. This has been our top 25 science fiction films of the decade. You can let us know what your top sci-fi movies are of the decade in the comments or on Twitter at the Ace Podcast. You can like and subscribe, all the usual things. You get us on I already said the Twitter. Ding the bell on YouTube. Make sure you get the notifications. You can support the show and everything we do here at MailFuzz TV by rating the podcast over at Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way. And you can, of course, also support us financially. Tara, how can people do that?
You could check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and donate as low as $1 per month and you'll get bonus episodes of The Ace. So go check it out.
There you go. Yeah, you get a bonus episode every month. The last one was Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. I know. So also thanks to our Patreon producers of David Shaw, Alison M, Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess, which means they are the $20 tier or above. So thank you to them for being the producers for the month of December. It may actually be January by the time this goes out, but we're recording it in December, so I have to say it when we record it. That's how it works. So, but yeah, that is us. That has been a pretty lengthy episode, actually. So hopefully you had fun with this, and you look forward to more countdowns. We do have certainly at the very least there's a top 10 time travel planned for sometime in April. However,
do we have to wait till after Tenet now?
That's a good point. Nah, we can do it before then. It just means that once it comes out, like, we know we're slotting it in somewhere, probably.
We'll see.
Yeah. But I think, it's probably worth doing the odd little countdown here or there as well. If not the big ones, then, other small ones, top 25s, top 10s, that kind of thing. So maybe we'll do another one in the summer, something like that. If I have a moment of inspiration, I'll have a reason to do a top 10. Maybe the fun would be doing like an old decade in the summer or something like that. But hey, but that is the show. That has been the Atomic Cinema Experiment episode. This must be about 40 now. Maybe we're just over 40. But
I don't know why you bother even bringing up what episode number we are, because you can't keep track.
I know. I can't keep track. Look. We're way past both our ages now, so I mean it's irrelevant.
Why is that a marker?
I said it's way past for both of us.
Why is age a marker?
Well,
for episodes.
Once we get to like 90 something, it won't be anymore.
I don't understand your rules.
Then it'll be interesting. Look, there was a time when it was similar to my age. Then there was a time a few weeks later when it was similar to your age. And okay. Thank you very much, everyone. This has been the Atomic Cinema Experiment. We love you loads. Keep watching science fiction movies. We'll see you next time in computer and salsa.
Yum yum.